who's listening.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? So that motion passes. And next up, we're going to have Susan Urkel.
I'm so used to saying aye or nay. I said that. I'm like,
I
oh
know.
my gosh, what is? Hi, everybody. I'm Suzanne Urkel, City Council member. I'm just here to update you on the last month's City Council meetings, which have been pretty light, actually. We went over the budget, which is a big, heavy thing that we're working on right now. That's a big issue. One of the issues that we are trying to resolve is some of the fees that residents have to pay. We talked about booster days and how that went, and thanked everybody. The seniors has invited all of you hardworking commission members to our Night to Unite, which is on the 4th from 11 to 1 over at Booster Park. So come on over, say hi to us, and have some free food and good homemade food. We did approve the concept plan for the SOTA district. Let's see, anything else? The airport is still looking for volunteers for their big Discover Aviation Days next June. So if anybody wants to network with any of those people, come on. Well, the meetings are online, but some of them are in person. So let me know and I will get you connected. And the last thing, the voting for primary is open. People can come in and do early voting right now. For mayor, we have Adam Miller, Joe Ryder, and Artie Anderson running. For council, we have Tammy Gimple, Tim Miller, Jim Smith, Mark Duchesne, and Dino Perfetti. So, any questions? All right, well, thank you so much.
Thanks so much,
Always fun.
Suzanne. All right. The next thing is the approval of minutes. Does anyone have any corrections?
There should be a correction on line 35. It's got the liaison as Mundell opposed to Urkel, so we'll need to correct that.
Okay, any other corrections?
I did not see anything.
If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? If not, all in favor of approving these minutes, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion passes. The next thing on our agenda is the public hearing for short-term rentals ordinance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a brief PowerPoint to kind of go through that certainly planning commission members have heard mostly me ramble on about before, but I updated a few things, but we'll just go from there. So again, tonight the planning commission is holding a public hearing about the possibility of the city council considering adopting a ordinance related to short-term rentals. In order for cities to pass ordinance amendments, additions, changes, what have you, it varies a little bit from city to city, but fundamentally, because it relates to land use and some of those parameters, that you have to have a public hearing on those law changes. So that's the purpose of tonight. And ultimately, the planning commission would make its recommendation to the council.
Excuse me, can everybody in the back hear Mr. Johnson? Okay, good.
I'll move my mic here. I don't know if that helps, but anyway, let's see. So I talked to give a little about the intention of tonight is to gather public comment on the proposed ordinance. Planning Commission will receive testimony and may recommend revisions or the concept itself to the City Council. Tonight, we're referring to the 724 version as presented, and no final ordinance will be adopted at tonight's meeting. A little bit of background. The City Council began discussing the possibility of some ordinances related to the regulation of short-term rentals about April 2026, and directed the Planning Commission to explore the background, the regulatory framework, and they did that back in May. They looked at what other cities do, concept about how it would be permitted and what size and scope of homes could be used and number of people and such. So that was part of the genesis of how the version that's out there now came to be. So they then scheduled a public hearing for tonight. That was in the city's newsletter, it was in the newspaper, and then certainly we posted in various places. Ultimately, if the City Council adopts something, the new ordinance would only become effective once it was published. So what's a short-term rental? I think we all kind of have a rough idea what those things are, but in the general terms, it's a rental of a dwelling for less than 30 days. We kind of understand those to be Airbnbs, VRBOs, and similar platforms. Different from long-term rentals, such as probably, hey, I have a home, I'm going to rent it out to a non-transient resident, rent my house or rent my apartment for 6 months, a year, typical lease. Certainly different from hotels, motels, or bed and breakfasts. Hotels, motels, and bed and breakfasts, like we all know, but in bed and breakfast, obviously you have the element of serving a meal with those things. Why does it matter? In a lot of cities, including the National League of Cities, it's identified as an emerging land use issue. Certainly it can provide income and tourism for those owners and operators. However, it can create conflicts in residential neighborhoods, especially when, can create conflicts in residential neighborhoods anticipated for owner-occupied status areas. So when you have a number of homes most of our homes that were owner-occupied, you have now people that are there only on a short-term basis, and they may not view that neighborhood as the same as the resident does, so to speak. And the need for clear standards to protect residential neighborhoods while allowing responsible short-term rentals to operate, because certainly there's great operators too. Common concerns of these are changes in the nature of the neighborhood from owners to long-term residents to vacationers. There's noise and different activity levels, guests and parties, parking and traffic impacts, a party house or event type use, which is commercial property, which is typically not allowed in your residential zones. We have reports of weddings and parties being held and rented out for bigger events, well beyond the scope of a Airbnb or a VRBO thing. Certainly absentee ownership challenges, and ultimately it's always a difficult thing to enforce, even it's just an interpersonal enforcement, but sometimes how does the city know what's going on an immediate basis? You can't, so it's always dealing with after the fact complaints. So these are the common concerns that many cities are dealing with or have dealt with. In East Bethel, short-term rentals are not directly addressed in our code, so certainly it's a regulatory gap. We have about 20 listings identified through publicly available rental platforms. I just looked at VRBO and Airbnb, and certainly there's some overlap, and many tend to be focused in around the Coon Lake area. So there's no consistent standards for operation, and certainly we've had complaints. Why is it different here? Maybe in versus more urban areas. East Bethel has a rural and semi-rural character, which draws people out here, of course. You have larger residential lot sizes. most homes in the city are operating on septic systems and wells. A short-term rental can easily exceed that capacity. Impacts can vary by property location and size. A small lot on Coon Lake might have very different neighborhood impacts than a 10-acre parcel or even a half-acre parcel. Again, these are just some generalities. Many communities, what are other cities doing? Many communities regulate short-term rentals similar to what East Bethel is contemplating here. Approaches include licensing, an interim use permit or conditional use permit, hybrid models where one's an administrative license, another one might require council approval. And they treat short-term rentals as a distinct land use impact versus other rental forms. What I mean by that is it's transient housing versus somebody that is there for 6 months or a year where you wouldn't really know that it's a rental, short or long-term. So in the model we're talking about tonight is a hybrid regulatory model where somebody who wants to have a short-term rental, they could come in and get an administrative license. And our definition of administrative license for lower intensity would be 4 bedrooms or less. I'm sorry, 3 bedrooms and less. And that could be issued administratively. However, if they have 4 or more bedrooms, that would require a review by this board and ultimately approval by the city council. Also, the intention to distinguish between occasional residential rentals, and higher intensity commercial style operations. Trying to balance flexibility with oversight. We want to let people kind of do their own thing, but sometimes you're just forced to have some kind of brackets around things, and fees would be set by the city council annually, enough to make them noticed, but you don't want those to be too high. I mentioned a little bit, let's see if I might have skipped a page. Apologize. When would an interim use permit be required versus somebody who wanted to show up and get the permit from us staff folks? Would either be more than 4 bedrooms. Property is not classified as homestead, so somebody would buy the property as an investment and they would be presumably renting it out for this Airbnb, VRBO type use. And then for more than 120 rental days per year, so the intensity is known at that point. An IUP would be required and involve a public hearing and ultimately city council review to do those things. The rules that we're proposing have some operational standards, occupancy limits based on number of bedrooms. Typically, cities do 2 persons per bedroom plus 1 additional person throughout the structure. They have to park off the street. Septic system has to have capacity. You only get to rent the dwelling out, not yurts or tents or garages, without special approval. And the city would want a prior inspection. We're not going to go through it, with a fine-tooth comb, but we want to check for basic life, health, safety concerns, fire extinguishers, fire alarms, smoke alarms, egress windows, depending on where they're proposing. So I think some basic things. Some additional standards. The ordinance is proposing no events or party house activities. So if you have some short-term renters, they are limited to only having 3 guests who are not part of the official rental party. Properties with swimming pools must first demonstrate compliance. There's a lot of statutory elements for swimming pools. And if it's used as a commercial operation at that point or a short-term rental, Minnesota statute requires various licensings from the state or county. Sometimes people will say, well, I'll close the pool. No, what does closing the pool mean? You can now there's some ways to certainly do that, board it up and put a substantial structure over it, but that's different than just throwing a tarp over it or a pool cover. The planning commission talked about having a responsible party being within an hour distance, or the owner. Sometimes when you talk to complainants or there's an issue arise, we want to be able to get a hold of somebody and who can respond. We're asking for some basic record keeping, attendance or number of rentals, only to the extent necessary to issue the permit and to track the permit. And spacing requirements, certainly residents who live on a street that might be inclined to be short-term rented facilities don't want their whole street to be rented out like that. So one can only be issued within, if there was one issued, one can't be right next to it or within 250 feet. And if they do want to do that, then they got to come in and get an interim use permit. Doesn't mean it would be denied, but it just makes that approval threshold slightly higher for them. So being first is probably more important, I guess. But inspection and compliance, I mentioned life safety, smoke detectors, CO2s, egress. The owner is responsible for the safety. It's not the city, it's not the renter, it's the owner. And in our process, we would have some inspections, I believe, every 2 years, and there would be revocations or suspensions for non-compliance or a number of complaints. So we want, again, good short-term operators. You know, there's probably more than we know, and they do great. So questions to think about. Again, there's probably 10,000 questions to think about. So should short-term rentals be allowed in East Bethel's single-family residential districts or other areas? Does the framework of administrative license or interim use permits provide an appropriate balance? Are the proposed thresholds, number of bedrooms, homestead status, rental days appropriate? Are the proposed operational standards sufficient to protect properties, neighboring properties? Should other spacing requirements be implemented? Or certainly anything else you folks or the public might want to talk about. So how to participate tonight? I know the chair will do a great job doing that too, but this is the typical thing about not just this short-term rental, but any public hearing. So with that, I'll zip it and go from there.
Okay, well, I'm going to open the public hearing for this, and I'm going to ask people to come up, and as Mr. Johnson said, to please state your name and your address. We're especially interested if you're a resident of East Bethel, and please keep your comments brief and direct. It's no need to repeat yourself oftentimes. We kind of get it the first or second time. And if you could please keep your comments to about 3 to 5 minutes, we'd really appreciate it. It's going to be a long meeting tonight, I think. So we will start. Would anyone like to come up and talk about this short-term rentals issue? Now, I saw lots of people, so come on up.
Nobody else is going to.
There will be more.
My name is Suzanne Peterson. I live at 4820 South Tri-Oak Circle in East Bethel. And I think a short-term rental thing is really important. Oh, sorry. Can you now hear me? Maybe I need to get closer. I get accused of being too loud, so I'm trying not to be. I am not that far from a property which is definitely a problem right now. And we need to have some sort of control as a city, as an entity. I love where I live. It's great. I have wonderful people. But, you know, you can't have parties. You can't have crazy stuff. That's why we need the ordinance. Personally, the sharper the teeth and the more punishment for people who don't respect our neighborhood. I'm talking about owners now more than the renters. That's what we need to do, because there's nothing in here about what teeth the city has to deal with someone who doesn't want to comply. But I know other people in other cities talk about they've had the same issues. They have short-term rentals, They turn it into a party house, they do whatever. That's why we have to have it. Let's get it done. Let's give it some teeth. I love where I live.
Thanks a lot. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Oh, absolutely.
So, did you by chance get a chance to read the ordinance?
I did.
And did you have any comments?
I think it is thorough and fair, and I think, you know, in keeping with the residential neighborhood where I'm at least, we want to keep it feeling like a residential neighborhood, not a commercial district. I think it's very thoroughly done. I think it's fair because, you know, I like the idea of extra restrictions on bigger houses that, you know, just because it would have a bigger impact on the neighborhood. But I also want people to have the ability to rent out their houses. I get it. You know, we all look for that. More questions?
No, that was great.
I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
So, the one that's by you, how often is it rented out in your just estimate?
Oh, from before Memorial Day till after Labor Day. Sometimes it's only, you know, like lately it's been, I think, longer term ones that are like a week instead of a day.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had weddings there. We've had post-prom parties where they park up the streets and there's trash. I've come home after dark, and of course we don't have a lot of lighting there. I love not having a lot of lighting. The problem is you got 10 people who don't live there who are walking in the middle of the dang street at 10 o'clock at night. You know, I mean, that's not okay.
So you think that it's used more than 16 times a year?
Oh, without question.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's used a lot.
yeah.
I can't, you know, I live about a quarter mile away because I'm down on the point, but I walk the circle every day. So I know when people are there. It's one of the best things about the neighborhood. We have so many walkers, so many great neighbors. That's probably why we are aware and why we'd really like to see some kind of control for people who are not respecting our space. That's not okay.
Christine?
Yeah, just to follow up with that. So what is your biggest kind of, you know, grievance right now as far as what you would like to see to change?
I would like our neighborhood to remain residential. I don't have a problem if people want to rent out their property to a couple people or whatever, but the people who are renting need to respect our neighborhood. They need to respect us. Fireworks at 2 o'clock in the morning, not okay. Drunken people walking down the street, not okay. Parking all the way up and down the boulevard. And so, you know, it's not like you can't get by, but, and then I've picked up trash a little bit. It hasn't been terrible, but you know, you walk by. I mean, I pick up trash every time I walk around the block. Well, I come by there and there's, you know, 10, 15 things to pick up. My neighbors aren't pigs. So I want our neighborhood to retain its beautiful, residential, respectful character.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was
Thank
really
you.
fabulous.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, who else would like to come up and talk about this issue? And as you get started, if you could just give us your name, please, and your address.
I'm Dave Sikowski, and the address is 19519 East Front Boulevard, Northeast. And I live directly across from the event center. So what only bothers me is... Want me to start all over? Anyway, I live directly across from the event center, and for sure, every weekend, it's very, very noisy. People don't understand how their voices go across that lake. And
Dave, when you say event center, what do you mean by that?
the event center, well,
Yeah.
I'm saying about the big house across the
So
water from
it's
me.
a VRBO or Airbnb?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, the same that this lady just talked about.
Okay.
Same place. And anyways, we're not allowed to put our air conditioner on, so we leave our windows open. So at night, it gets very loud, and we like the breeze coming in from the water, but we don't like the noise. So that's about all I have.
okay.
Any
Great.
questions?
Anybody? None?
Okay.
Okay, thanks so much, Dave.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, my name's John Gorowski. I own property on Tri-Oak Circle at 19526, 19534, and 19542. My properties are right next door to a VRBO at 19520. The one property's been in my family for 76 years. I've lived in East Bethel for 30 years. The VRBO property has become a real issue for me and my family over the last 3 years, which has prompted me to get to know all of you guys, how the city works, how ordinances are established. We've enhanced our property, done a lot of things, all under the spirit of, is it reasonable? Is it unique to the property? And does it change the character of the neighborhood with anything I've done? So that's the perspective I look at this with. We need a short-term ordinance and code for short-term rental. There's a rental code now, but not the one that Eric's proposed. So we needed that, and it should be consistent with that, guys. You could say that I'm one of the people that's most affected by everything that Eric listed about what's wrong with the property and how disruptive it is, how it's invaded our beautiful place. But anybody here who's against this or for it shouldn't be here talking about what it means to me. It should be here, you should be here for your own and for the future of East Bethel, because it could happen to anybody here where private equity or somebody could purchase a property and create a party house, a bachelor party event, so on and so forth. It's a real problem, and we need to have the code established and enforced. So that's why I'm here. I do have some comments about the draft that Eric has proposed. The first one is that on Coon Lake, in specifically, or any lake within East Bethel, I don't think short-term rental should be allowed at all. There are many cities and lakes that don't allow it because when you live on the lake, as some of you might, or you have lake property, as some of you might, or you've stayed next to a resort or a campground, a lake is a little bit different place to live with property lines, with activity, with people, with everything. It's a different set of circumstances. So my first comment is, it shouldn't be allowed on the lake at all. My second comments have to do with some of the specifics in the subdivisions, Eric. And they relate to the number of people that can rent a short-term place. So Code Subdivision 2A and 3A, Eric, you've referred to splitting up, having a hybrid approach where you can rent your home with the homestead if you have 4 bedrooms or less, which, according to my calculations here, could total 7 people plus 1 or 6 or 4 renters, or 8 renters plus 1 plus 3. You'd have 11 people. I think 4 bedrooms is too many. I think it needs to be 3. That would put your maximum total of people at a rental property at 9. Okay, so the one, I think you, number 2A, that should be 3 is what I'm suggesting. 3 or fewer. And then 3A for the interim use permit, which is a different set of qualifications, non-homesteaded, so on and so forth. That would be, that would be 4 or more. However, the extra guests, I think should be 2 on that one. So you'd have a total of 12 people plus, depending upon the number of bedrooms of the homestead that the septic system can support. So I've just scaled down the number of people that can do the short-term rental versus an interim use permit, which is a different set of circumstances. Those are my a couple comments about the changes. Subdivision 4.7, adequate off-street parking shall be provided. I'd like further clarification as to what that means. I don't know what that means. Does that mean I can park 48 vehicles on the grass, or what does that mean? The other comments I have about short-term rental licenses being issued, as well as interim use permits being issued for this purpose, is how does the license become revoked when there are constant issues and complaints? How long does it take? And how are codes and code violations enforced in East Bethel? And how much time does it take? Those are my comments. Happy to answer any questions you have.
John, thanks so much for doing so much research and your comments. Does anybody have any questions? None? Okay, you did it really well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, who else would like to speak about this?
I'm Dan Schermping, and I live at 21835 Zumbrota Street. I have a concern about property. The house is built in a swamp on Zumbrota and 219th. And you got about 8 renters in there, cars parked all over the street.
Is that a VRBO or Airbnb thing, or is that somebody that's doing long-term
Just
renting?
Some old guy who's rented it or bought it, but he has all these people staying there.
Okay, yeah, and I think that this is kind of different. Would you agree, Eric? That, or are you
I was just
familiar with
wondering
this?
what kind of rental agreement he has. He doesn't have any.
Well,
Go ahead.
thank you, Madam Chair. The issue there may be they do need to secure a typical standard rental license from the city. So can you tell me the address again?
No, they don't have it on the mailbox. It's on 219th in Zumbrota, on the west side of Zumbrota, going south, whatever direction, it's still west. And plus, they tear the hell out of Zumbrota, see it with four-wheelers, but that's got nothing to do with this. But
Okay.
Could you just come over and I can get your name and I can,
I got it right on here.
okay. Got it. Is your phone number on there or
I'd
way
get
to
somebody
get a
to go
hold of
over there
you?
and check that out. What about cars? Can you talk about cars parked with no license tabs?
Right, and those are things that you just need to deal directly with the staff on. And it's, I mean, great that you came up here to bring this up. And now you know that Eric or,
Can you talk about cars?
I'll talk about whatever you want if the
Okay,
chair thinks it's
On
appropriate.
219th, I don't know what the address is, 2735 or 2755, it's hard to read that. But there's some foreigners living there, and there's about 8 cars in there, and I'm sure most of them aren't licensed. In the same way that the one on 219 in Zumbrota, that should be all checked out too.
okay. Dan, it's really important to bring that during business hours, because this is a different issue than
Yeah,
what
I
we're
see.
talking about, but it's all good
That's all.
that you brought it up.
I'll just let you know.
What's
Thank
it?
you.
Or to council, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Thanks, Dan.
we have another volunteer.
Hi, my name is Marlon Sandvik. I live at 146 King Road, Wyoming, Minnesota. That's Coon Lake Beach area. And as a lot of you know, we have a lot of people out there that also own 2 or 3, 4 properties. And we do have problems with basically what I am, I'm the property manager. So I'm in charge of everything, the Coon Lake dock spaces and the clubhouse and everything. So I'm pretty much involved in a lot of this stuff. And I get a lot of people, we're concerned that these people that have 2 or 3 homes, they're renting them out, like you said, I've been here and here, they're renting to who knows what. And I hear a lot of it come to me about this because I'm kind of oversee all this, that, you know, people are having parties down on the dock space, because if you know anything about that area, everybody who lives there can rent a dock space there. And we have people that own these places, and some of the places aren't the best places in the world, and they just kind of rent the place out so the people can get a dock space. And I have a lot of complaints that people that, as you said, they short term, and they don't care what they do to our property. You know, they come down and they have parties out on the docks, and they leave their cans and this and that all over. So we have quite a bit of that in the Coon Lake Beach area. And we have B&B, and some people don't like that because they have two sides and they rent them out, and so we do have that problem.
That's
So
really
it's-
interesting.
Yeah.
Not good for you, but
No, no.
interesting to hear that that even happens.
Yeah.
And
So it's, you know, I've known about 3 or 4 people that own probably 4 different properties there. And I'm not saying people are all bad. It's, like you said, but a lot of them are shorter term, you know, maybe 6 months, a year. And I think some places maybe just rent them out for the summer so these people can have dock spaces. Everybody, if you know, everybody who wants, they want to live on the lake. And whatever they can do to get on the lake, that's what they're going to do.
okay, so these are more long-term rentals that you're talking
Well,
about?
yeah, some of them, they're long-term until they're bad, and they can turn out to be short-term. I mean, you know, they just rent them, and all of a sudden, you know, people uproar because, you know, they're leaving stuffed cans, and they're having, like you said, they're having parties and all that. So we do have that in our area, as some of you guys know. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up,
Okay.
to let you
appreciate
guys
it.
know about that.
Did you happen to get a chance to look at the proposed ordinance?
No, I didn't, really. I
Okay.
just read this and decided to come here, and was pretty interested in it because I have a lot to do with what happens there, so.
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad we can do what we're trying to do to clean some of this up. And that's what we need in our area, because that's a nice area, and we love our area, and most of the people there are concerned about what we do and enjoy living there. So,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you, Marla. Does anybody have any questions?
Did I understand right? Did you see that they're not necessarily renting a property, well, like staying at the property, but they're renting the property
Yeah.
so they can use the dock?
Yeah,
Is
we have
that
we have a few from there.
okay?
I mean, who are we, like I said, who are we to say, you know, that's, if somebody owns one, they pretty much can do what they want.
Sure.
That's why here we have to decide, you know, how do we know that? How do people know that? I mean, I just know that because of what I do
Okay.
in that. But yeah, we have a few of them that do that.
So do they rent the dock out, or do they rent the?
Well, you can't, they can't just rent the dock out. See, the thing it is, if somebody owns it, if, like you owned it and I rent it from you, I'll rent it from you, but the house might not be very good and you don't live in it, you don't do anything. You just rent it because you want that dock space to get out on the lake.
Interesting. Interesting.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You
So
bet.
do you have a lake association that addresses this?
Yeah, we have our board, and, you know, and we do, but how much can we do as a community? You know, we have our president, vice presidents, like you guys, we have our board. We meet once a month, and we talk about a lot of this stuff, but how much of it is in our authority can we do? You know, I mean, if somebody owns a house, I mean, can we go tell them, says, hey, nobody's living in there, what are you gonna do? I mean, you know, it's kind of one of these iffy things. So.
Sounds like a whole can of worms to me for
It kind of
for
is a little
Mr.
bit.
Johnson.
So
Wow.
something, yeah.
But I really appreciate your comments.
Okay, thank you very
Yes.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, who else would like to talk about this? I know a lot of people have signed up, their names, there you go.
Yeah, hi, my name is Scott Sahatu, live on 1161 229th Avenue. The questions that I had was, I didn't see anything about acreage for people that have different size acreage, so that was one of my concerns. And then also, you know, I did look up properties in East Bethel for the Airbnb and the
Great.
Furbo. And I did notice that the majority of them are on lakes, or on Coon Lake. And I just would like to know, has it been a problem, or is that why that this is being brought up? That is it, and if it is a problem, is it just concentrated on these lakes on Coon Lake? So that was my questions.
So personally, do you have any concerns around you or how it might affect
No,
you?
not that I have noticed. We live on 229th, and everybody has a lot of acreage, 5, 10, some people have 20 acres, so we never noticed things like that. And that's why I found it very interesting that this was being proposed in East Bethel. And then when I looked it up, I noticed that everything was on the lakes for Airbnb and Verbo. And I just wondered if there was just issues that have been commonly coming up with problem properties there on the lake. That's why we're here, or I just want to know why we're here.
Yeah, I think that, we'll probably hear some of that tonight, and
Sure.
and you did a lot of research on this, so thanks.
Yeah.
Any questions for Scott? Okay.
So again, so your question on the acreage,
Yeah, I just didn't see anything about acreage, because like I said, in East Bethel, there's people that have, small lots, and then there's people that have larger properties that, have 20 acres, if not more.
are you
So-
thinking of setting a restriction?
I
or-
would
okay.
think that if you would have more acreage, I would think that there should be a little bit more leniency.
Sure,
That's what I would think.
okay,
But-
sure.
Or
Yeah.
common sense would bring it to the table that way, I would think.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Who is next? Go ahead. Yeah, come on up.
It's not quite exactly. So,
Oh, come on up though to the microphone, please.
so as long as they're kind of done talking, I
And you
live
were
on Coon
Dave?
Lake. I'm on 3940 Breezy Point. Were you guys notified about the development going in on the south side, Ham Lake, for the 40 docks?
Nothing on this board, we haven't been.
You guys were never notified by Ham Lake?
Well, so this is a planning commission for East Bethel, so
I
no.
get that, but I guess the question I'm asking is, since they're developing something on that side so massive, and how much of East Bethel is the lake? 3/4?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess
Probably.
that would probably be a thing for the city council. If you're gonna have
At
an
Ham
issue.
Lake?
Well, or East Bethel. I mean, if you're thinking that East Bethel is gonna be affected, you could bring it
No,
up.
Coon Lake's gonna be affected, not East, but, so you guys know anything about that down there?
No.
Yeah,
You
well,
do?
no, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So no, cities, when they do zoning amendments or comprehensive plan changes, what have you, there are some requirements that they notify the abutting communities. In most other cases, if it's not that broad or it's just a development, there's no statutory requirement. They let their neighboring communities know. So that isn't something that we probably would have gotten any official notice on. I've not seen it. DNR probably was notified.
They were.
So, there's nothing that the city of East Bethel is going to be required to be notified about, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, I understand. I was just curious if anyone knew about it, had any objections to them putting in that, but it doesn't sound like anyone did here, so.
There's gonna be a resort.
No, a guy on the south side, it's a Halbert. He's got a big piece of property on the south side, and they're gonna do a large wooden dock out to a 40-position dock on the south side of the lake. And it's Ham Lake side, so has nothing to do with us or these guys.
Okay, and we're going to keep the crosstalk off, please, just because when they're taking minutes, they need to be able to find out who's speaking and record it for the meeting, please. Anybody else wants to come up and talk about this? Or you came to listen, it looks like. All right. I'm going to close the public meeting unless somebody's rushing up. So the public hearing is closed, and now the board here is going to bring up their questions and have some discussion. So, anybody?
Yeah, I guess the enforcement part has been kind of standing out to me. The draft is pretty well written, but I mean, off-street parking, I could imagine some of the narrow roads around East Bethel lined with cars because the rental unit is, whatever, the driveway is not sufficient or whatnot. I could see that being, who's going to enforce, do we need to start registering plates of visiting vehicles and having, or stickers or tags put in windshields, enforcement, I guess, is where I think the city's going to want to, I think we would get a lot more public support if we showed that this is how we're going to maintain these conditions of short-term rentals.
Do you have any suggestions for the ordinance? Not to put you on the spot.
No, there was a lot to it. A lot of the conditions laid out in the, what was it, PC 2610, addressed the subdivisions that were laid out. So subdivision 12 I'm looking at says a failure to comply with all terms of this article constitute a misdemeanor and is punishable by up to 90 days in jail, $1,000 fine, or both. We could add to that stating that the owner will sign some sort of a liability a document which will kind of put enforcement of those in more or less the express lane as opposed to going to a council or whatnot. So I guess that's off the top of my head.
Is that something that you'd like to officially add then to the ordinance? And maybe you could come up with some wording by the time we get done for changes?
Yeah, I can work on some wording for that.
Okay.
As far as the parking, subdivision 9 does require a map of approved parking areas. So if we could expand on that, say, as drawn up by the owner and approved by, that might also help constrict any sort of conditional or any sort of short-term rental getting out of control, I guess.
I think that's really a great idea, actually. So with their application, they need to provide a map of the parking, of off-street parking?
Yeah, I think that would help.
What else do we have?
Well, I'm concerned with the amount of use. It got back to our original discussion, and remember we started at so many days, and then didn't we go to like 100? And then when I hear comments that it's rented out every weekend, and I wouldn't want to live next door to one either. And so that's a concern of mine, is that I think the days, I fully agree with the comment about where's our bite when they don't conform. I mean, we already have issues. I could bore everybody to death with my neighbor who has a junkyard and how the city cannot get rid of them, or they continue to work on it, and how it took a year and a half to get rid of a meth house 500 feet from my house. And so what is going to be the teeth, as the quote was used, to control this? I think we have to come up with some firm things on that. I don't want to ban them outright, because I'm sure there are some people that, good renters and good owners, and they're used, small. Somebody uses it literally for a weekend and takes their family to enjoy the lake. But I do think we need to have a lot more with parking and bite for the non-conforming side of it, and a resource for the residents who have problems with these units.
I wonder if that's a discussion for city council too, especially on how they enforce.
Yeah. But I mean, the day thing, I mean, that was in the back of my mind when we were talking about this. It's like I say, if somebody rents something out 3 times a year, it's one thing. But if it's being rented out 16 weekends in a row or longer during the week,
Yeah, I don't even know how that works, because if you have a house and it's homesteaded, meaning it's your place that you live, then how do you rent it out 120 days? Where do you go?
Right.
When you're doing that in Minnesota?
Yeah.
You know. Do you know, Eric, how that works?
Could you repeat that?
Okay, so for this to be eligible, it has to be a homesteaded house. This is where your primary residence is.
No, if homesteaded, if for an administratively issued permit. If it's non-homesteaded, then they automatically are defaulted into the interim use process.
Right.
Yep.
But so basically, how do you get a homestead? I mean, it was just my understanding that this is your place of residence.
Correct.
And if you're gone 120 days out of the year.
Whatever the statute will dictate as they define it. I couldn't tell you the exact verbiage. I think it could be 120 days, it could be 180 days, or what does the statute say for you? What is your place of residence is essentially what it is. And that law could change tomorrow. So it's really using the term homesteaded, generally speaking, is the better approach, because the state could change what that means. I mean, we can look at the ordinance, but or look at the statute, but that might be a whole other conversation. I think we all generally know what homesteaded means. Owner occupied, your place of residence. You know, if it's owned by a third party and just intentionally meant to be a non-homestead or essentially a commercial operation, well, then you'd kind of know. It's just, and it's an objective tool, because any of us can go on the county website and look at anybody's property and find out if it's homesteaded or non-homesteaded. So it's a very clear path, I guess. So
When we were talking about 120 days available, does that mean 120 days that it's up on the VRBO or Airbnb schedule as available that time, or does that mean 120 days occupied?
Well, that's a good, that might be a clarification you folks might want to talk about. You know, somebody saying in section 3, subdivision 2 on the screen, is available for short-term rental. We use the term for the administrative license, is available for short-term rental, not more than. So it doesn't matter that it's rented, but rather that it is available.
On the schedule as available.
Or, yeah, you've got it listed. You've got it. If you thought a little bit about that, is how do you track some of that data? So simply, in a lot of ways, you have to take somebody's word for it.
Yep.
Part of that record keeping that you're talking about.
Yep. The other real maybe objective way to do it, you still have to take their word for it, is if the city had a room tax. You know, I mean, that way you can easily do the calculation and say, okay, it's a 3% room tax or something like that. Then they'd be responsible to submit to the city that quarterly amount and or to the state. And then you'd be able to track that data a lot easier. But that's a different question, right? So.
I didn't see how much the administrative fee was for the license.
We didn't put any numbers in there at this point.
Okay.
And maybe back to some of the other commissioner points, if I may.
Please.
How to think about this? The enforcement piece. You know, enforcement's never easy for any kind of anything. And so when we wrote this, we tried to make a clear path for the city attorney and those staff people who are expected to enforce it. We know our legal system has a long path, and that's the way we want it. I mean, I think all of us wear a different set of lenses would say, yeah, that's appropriate. It's about due process. and it's not necessarily meant to be fast. But that said, we want to clarify that if there's repeated complaints under 2B or nuisance conditions, which we define just above that, and then they fail to comply, the city would certainly send the letter saying, hey, knock it off. We'd say it nicer, of course. We'd call the person, and should a second violation occur, well, then the city would seek a revocation of that, suspend or revoke that administrative license or interim use permit for repeated complaints and failure to comply. You know, if they still then do the short-term rental, even after the city revokes it, then what happens? Well, now you're back into the court systems. You're back into the legal. Eric is powerless. I can't do anything more than send a letter. It's really going to be up to the city and the city attorney to document what's going on, file the criminal complaint, and then that goes back to number 4 on the screen. Charge them with a misdemeanor, 90 days in jail, and it happens. It doesn't happen often, but it can happen. So you're relying a lot on just people's good faith to comply. What else can you do?
Do you happen to know if Airbnb and VRBO could refuse a listing if a city says you can't?
I understand they do take that input. Do they listen? You know, obviously they're into it to make revenue on it for their listing. I know they have complaint forms, and I know they have those things, but they don't probably care quite so much about what East Bethel has to say.
Yeah, but there's a vehicle to do that.
There's a vehicle to do
Just like Google will fix the address on my Google Maps someday, right?
Someday.
Yeah. Okay.
I wish I could say, yeah, they'll listen to everything we have to say, but, you know, you could certainly try, and I wouldn't not do it.
I was thinking about the issue of like 8 cars parked along a street and why that would be. And I don't know if this is practical or not, but the reason that we thought you could have like up to 2 people per bedroom, we were thinking about families that wanted to rent this. So perhaps if they needed to prove that it was a family rather than 8 bachelors or 8 whomever that aren't related, that's a different dynamic and more likely to cause the issues than a family that is more self-policing, presumably, and cohesive than, and plus 1 or 2 vehicles at most versus 8. So could that be a
You certainly could. And my useless 2 cents of that, though, is how do we as a city enforce that from a, do we make people bring birth certificates? Do we, and I don't mean that glibly.
Right.
But how do we enable the owner to, I think that would help. But another thing is, if maybe looking at I'm thinking as I'm speaking, a 3-bedroom. One of the speakers talked about maybe reducing it to 3 bedrooms, being the administrative, and then 4 or more being the IUP process. Because the IUP, you've all seen those. You know, those are pretty elaborate conversations where we'd require site plan, we'd require clear parking, we'd require, you know, all those elements. Whereas an interim or as an administrative use is probably a lot less cumbersome on an applicant. But a 3-bedroom home, how many cars could you really get? Most of the time. You might get 3 or 4 cars, and most of the homes would probably have enough space to off-street park that. Maybe not all, but probably most. And again, what's simple for us?
I think it's
to-
such an easy thing to get around. I mean, if I'm renting one and I want to throw a stag party, I tell my buddies, park over here and take an Uber. To me, that the number of cars is not going to control the event.
If people had to write the names of who's renting each time, would that?
Yeah, we do, if I'm not mistaken, we do have,
Yeah,
ask them
that's in there.
to,
That's in there.
Thanks, Dan.
we do ask them to keep track of, I forgot where I wrote this. Of the occupancy.
Subdivision 9, number 1.
Right, yeah, okay, so we want to know occupancy dates, duration, number of occupants, and contact information. So, sometimes cities, they'll try to add things to that list, you know, that you get into, might have some legal issues with requesting that data from somebody as a condition of a permit. I think your point is correct, but I don't know if we could ask for that data. How do we know somebody's related? How do we know somebody's in somebody's family? You know, what does that mean?
It would be more like if there's a problem, then you would have the documentation to go back, because if a stipulation was it had to be a family for the multiple occupancy, they
I'm
could
with
get
you.
around it, but then if there were issues, then they would have violated that.
And then they just never come back. I mean, yeah, I get it. It's just tough to do. Some cities do say, if you're gonna have a general rental ordinance, no more than 3 non-related persons may cohabitate in a home. You know, so some cities do have that. Could you use that terminology here? Maybe.
But it really brings up, you know, what is a family, what's a relation,
I
and
don't,
all
and I
that.
don't know what those things mean.
That's tough.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Glenn, do you have any suggestions for putting in the ordinance?
Not that haven't been shot down.
Well, I think you're right.
I don't know that we're going to come to, I think you need to table this. I think there's more discussion that needs to be had. I think there's absolutely a lot that we heard tonight. I think for sure that I think there should be like a subdivision for Coon Lake or for the lakes area, it sounds like. Maybe IUPs across the board. If you're going to have a short-term rental in the lakes area, you have to come and you need to get an IUP, period. That's just the way it is, because these are communities that sound like they live very close to each other. The community is very close. They have limited parking space. They're on well and septic. They have other uses. It sounds like there's docks being used. There's a lot of community space. So maybe in that section of our city, that needs to happen. In our outskirts, which again, it sounds like not a lot of rentals are being happened, like you had brought up, sir, that there's not short-term rentals that are out there on the acres, which again, maybe there is. Someone's got a horse and something I can go rent. I'd love to do that, but they're renting it on the lake. So maybe we should really kind of have a section for our lakes area and get it a little look at IUPs for those types of areas. I do agree that maybe we could make it stricter, bring it down to the 3 bedrooms. Anything that is above that, IUP. Again, I don't think we're gonna get a lot of short-term rentals here, again, unless it's gonna be in our lakes area, maybe here and there out in the countries for our, again, you know, a country type setting, right, for maybe I can't even think of anything off the top of my head, but so I do think we have some work still to do, but I think we've got some good information from the community on some stuff.
Yeah, I think it's the big ones that are the problem, you know, I mean, if it's just a family that comes in and rents for 2 days and a weekend, they're probably not a big disruption.
No, yeah, I mean,
But it's the, you know.
having events, having,
It's the disruption is.
yeah, celebration.
My buddy's on a golf outing 25 years ago, and there were 12 of us. You did not want us renting in your hotel, let alone a house. And so we would go rent a houseboat to get away from people because we couldn't get kicked out of the houseboat. But I really think we got to get some bite in the lakes area, like you said. And the other side of it is my son and I and a few of his friends rented a place up by Mille Lacs because we were deer hunting. It worked out awesome. Now, so I mean, there's a situation where we rented this house that was kind of in the middle of Cucamonga, but it worked out great for us because it was near where we were hunting. And we probably weren't bad renters until my kid shot a big deer that night. But if we had close neighbors, it might have been a problem. So I really think that the lake thing is a great idea.
Yeah.
One thing, if I could. So in your city ordinance, let's see if I can make this work without too much of a hassle. So, I mean, I think spending more time on it is, you know, certainly something absolutely you can do, and probably well worth it. However, try to keep things simple at the end of the day from an enforcement standpoint, is really what I would encourage any ordinance to be. You know, practical and I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but let's see. Here we have your Coon Lake District. Map's not populating very well. And so the question might be, try to make it simple, is anything that's within the Coon Lake zoning would be by interim use permit. Any kind of short-term rental is only by interim use permit. That way you have a definition, this is what it is. And it doesn't matter if it's 3 bedrooms, 10 bedrooms, 1 bedroom. You don't have to create any kind of new special maps. You simply use your zoning map. Anything zoned Coon Lake is interim use permit, and everything else you could use your other standards. If
That's
you think
clean.
that might get to what you're thinking about. Because these are where most of the rentals are, obviously, is what the gentleman had indicated, and probably true, of course. Another possibility, if it's more than just the lakes or just Coon Lake, the city does have something called the shoreland overlay zoning, and you could say anything zoned within shoreland overlay is by interim use permit, and that would address all of your lakes, lake areas. And so for me, it's just a question of what's the objective tool, and you already have that. So just something to think about.
Okay. Before we move on too far, Gerald, do you have anything that you want to add?
No, not at the moment, though. But I do agree with you. I think either we need to spend a little bit more time on this. Yep.
So I'm kind of on the other side. I'd kind of like to get a recommendation if we can to them, but what other things what would you like to spend time on yet then?
I guess my only, I would like it to be narrowed down a little bit more. So I definitely want to reduce it to the 3 bedrooms. I do want to spell out some definitions in there so it's more clear. So they brought up the adequate parking. That's a good call out. But again, if we are going to be specifying an area like this, like we've talked about as far as the overland or the Coon Lake District where it's going to be IUPs, we're going to be able to define all of that specifically for the short-term rentals. So I don't know that really is going to need to be defined any clearer, because anything else should have sufficient parking, right? Because it's going to be outside of those areas where there'll be plenty of parking available. There was another responsible party I think I saw in there that I just had a question about, that responsible party, that person's designate a party owner who resides within 5 miles.
I think did we change that to
It
1
was
hour?
No, it did say 5 miles in there, and then later it said 1 hour. So
I'm
at the
sorry,
very
it should-
beginning, it's 5.
it should
'Cause I had
be
the same
1 hour.
question too.
Yeah, if I missed that.
So yeah, if you just do a search for 5 miles or something like that.
Yeah, then I apologize, that should be edited back to the 1 hour distance.
Yep.
Okay, because it's in the definitions, so there's a responsible party, and then there's, I don't know if that's being the same as the permitter, because the permitter can be an hour out, or the permittee, and then there's the responsible party.
So the responsible party would be the person designated by the property owner who resides within 1 hour, so that's one
Okay.
clarification.
So it'd be like an on-call person.
Okay, so
In
that'll be
effect,
changed to
right.
1 hour, okay. All right, because I was like, 5 minutes,
Mhm.
that's
I
a little
apologize.
unreasonable. Okay, thank you.
So Christina, do you still want to table this and discuss further at the next meeting, or would you like to make some type of motion for the things that you'd like to include for the Coon Lake District?
Yeah, I guess if everyone is kind of in agreement with that,
Could I ask
Yes.
one question?
Yes.
So if you think, again, so you have a dated version here, on the screen, it's pretty what's in the handout and what's in your packet, notwithstanding my mistake. So this is what's attached to your resolution in your packet, PC 2609. So in the event you think that most of it is great and good, if you could adopt a resolution PC 260-09, which this ordinance would be its Exhibit A. So if you make that motion, for example, and then any edits you want to that would be attached to this resolution. You follow me?
Right.
And yeah, so.
Okay.
Right, so I'm kind of hearing two things that we want to edit. One is Brian's idea about the map, and then Christina, if you're working on some wording for yours. Do we need two motions maybe for those different things?
Whatever
Each edit?
you feel comfortable with. So for example, a motion to approve the resolution as presented, and then a second motion with any edits you want to the proposed ordinance.
So we would make a motion to approve it, recommend approval with edits,
Correct, in effect, correct.
right?
So Eric, can I get back to, if a resident has a problem, how do they complain?
You want to know how it really works, or do you want me to
Yeah.
tell you? So in our city, we do require them to submit a complaint form.
So they have to come in,
They got to, come in, and there's some
fill out the form,
requirements, fill out the form.
take a
We-
picture of the
we'll take
driver's
some
license, I
emails
know the
and
process.
all that stuff, but that's really, and the purpose of that is so you have bona fide complaints. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody who doesn't want to do that or just wants to talk to their council member or their planning commission member or what have you, those aren't valid concerns, but cities have to have a process about dealing with complaints officially, you know? So that's what we do.
See, that's why I think we need to really have more strict rules, because if people rent it out and it's a hell week, those people are moved on and gone, the renters.
Yeah.
And the citizens had to put up with it.
Well, the teeth of this ordinance at the end of the day, it comes down to really two things. You know, as like anything, and here's your enforcement, suspension, and revocation, isn't gonna be the threat of revocation or suspension. That'll happen. Okay, well, people will get a little bit of rope to get their hands around their tenants or their renters and, you know, knock it off and this and that. But as you get into the third violation, let's just say that's the parameter, which is probably common sense to say. The city council will likely revoke that license, likely revoke that. But that's not the problem. The problem is when they continue to rent. And that's when you're gonna fall back down into item 4, because they're then operating without a license. So all of the teeth are there, it's just a question of how fast can that unfold? There is really no other teeth that cities have than what is on the screen. I mean, I'd love to be able to, you know, knock on the door and put up a sticker that says, you can't rent this, and they're gonna listen to me. Well, it doesn't kinda happen like that. Can cities, does the sheriff show up, again, when the city uses the sheriff, does the sheriff show up and start issuing citations to the renters? Maybe. But that's a complaint driven that night or that day. And how much so it's a tough thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
So it
But
gets
we will
back
have
to
them
me,
on record now. That's
how
the
do
thing.
we
We'll have those
control it
addresses.
from being a small rental to a big? It's like we don't have anything in there to differentiate between 10 people and a family of 4.
well,
Well, if they
you
have
do by the,
three-
if it's in the
bedrooms,
Coon
maybe.
Lake district, maybe you say to maybe another parameter is the $1,000 escrow. $5,000 escrow. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, if you put some
you
money
get,
on the line.
I don't know what the legality of it is. I would think that's reasonable. Something the council could talk about. Probably should check with the city attorney, but that's one more piece of compliance tool that you could offer. I mean, if it's $100, who cares, right? But if it's $1,000, $5,000, you know, that you get your money back when you no longer operate and you didn't have any violations. So it's not, you're not forfeiting the money, okay? Here's your permit, you give us your escrow. If you don't have any violations in this 2-year window or whatever the term is, and you no longer want to do this thing, well, here's your money back.
But if you're doing that, very occasionally, it's gonna take you a long time to cover that escrow.
Well,
You know.
true.
Do you have any suggestions, Corey, for editing?
I don't know. I think we gotta put stricter rules on the size. Because I know that's the number one problem is the parties, not the little rentals. It's not, and it's the parties that are affecting the neighbors.
So if
How,
we did
how
it
do you
to-
suggest we do that then? Yeah, do you have like?
Tell them to
how
get a
do you
houseboat.
think
Oh, yeah,
No, I
that's
don't
a-
know. I mean, honestly, it's such a hard topic.
Mhm.
And that's where I struggle with making a recommendation tonight. I think I mean, we've got a good start, but I think it's such a tough issue. But I do know we're not the first city to come up with rules on these. I don't know. I mean,
Most of them, there's hundreds of cities, hundreds
Yeah.
of examples, right? In the ones we looked at, if you remember, the first started going through this, we tried to pick the region, you know, the Plains, the Anokas,
Yeah.
you know, the ones, and they're generally in the same realm as this. It's really gonna boil down to if somebody's just not willing to comply, there's not much you can do. And then you're into the legal realm, the criminal complaint, and that's number 4.
well, I think the ordinance needs to stand up for the residents that live around them more than the renters. A perfect example is not one person who rents them came to speak tonight. I would have loved to have heard from 1 or 2 of them to hear their opinions and what they do to run a good VRBO. So to me, the spirit of it has to be to protect the neighbors.
short of anything else, I mean, we can do some research on it, but some kind of escrow is an important piece. I mean,
Yeah.
what is the objective mechanism you can use here that, you know, we as a city can easily say, so when they come in for an application, you know, give us your insurance, you know, fill this form out, blah, 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 proof of, you know, your septic system's in good shape, you know, all those things. Oh, and by the way, $1,000. You get that money back at the end of this license cycle, 2 years, or whatever term you guys want to come up with, that if you don't have any violations, you get it all back. And so maybe they'll think, maybe they get one warning, you know, something like that. Yeah. But you have to have a mechanism to make the owner responsible for those tenants, because the tenants will be gone. But I don't know what else you could really do, to be honest with you.
Okay, well, let's keep moving. Are you guys wanting to make, just discussion, do you want to make recommendations tonight, or do you want to continue this discussion? Mr. Terry?
I was thinking about the escrow thing, and if we are doing a separate, or I think that should apply to the IUPs, which is like specifically Coon Lake, but not necessarily to the administrative ones.
Yep.
Okay. Corey, you're still not comfortable, I can tell. Brian?
Yeah, it's, these are great points. I like the escrow idea, you know, something to try and have the permittees, you know, a little more accountable for the people that they're letting into our community. That doesn't mean it's going to happen all the time, but it's a step in that direction. You know, and I don't think we're gonna be able to weatherproof this ordinance. There's gonna be something's gonna be getting through, but I think this is a good, it's a good rough draft, let's put it that way.
And how much discussion is it going to take to make it perfect?
Exactly. So are we going to go for perfect, or do we get the ball rolling? I mean, I like the, you know, with the IUP, we can put some definition in that. So maybe that's where we should focus our attention moving forward with this.
Gerald?
I have a recommendation, which is, we've covered a lot of important points. We have a general idea of what we want to do with this. If we put it off, the more we put it off, the longer the problems that exist currently are going to continue.
Yeah.
So we could create an ordinance, we could pass it. If it doesn't work, we could revisit it and rework it.
Yeah.
At least we'd have something that can more quickly address current situations.
And so if we, because I agree with that, I was just thinking of that as well. So maybe this is a very good point, and Terry's same, that we should probably get this moving so we can start working on the issues that are in front of us now and adapt as we go. So how long do we then give the current short-term renters, owners, to comply and to now go get a license, get an IUP?
Once it's adopted, we'll post it and we'll send it to the known renters, as it were, and let them know that they have come into compliance in 30 days. Would seem fair for them to come and make an application.
Okay.
Probably want to give them some grace period to, you know, okay, these are new rules. You know, make sure you apply in the next 30 days. That IUP process takes a little time too. So as long as you're in the throes of it, the enforcement is not that big a deal. But we'll let them know in the interim that don't have violations and follow the ordinance, short of the application. Otherwise, it really won't help you out when you do get in front of the Planning Commission. So we can put that all in the letter which we would send. So if you, just to piggyback maybe what I thought I heard you folks say is consider the resolution as presented with the ordinance as presented. However, change it to three bedrooms or less would be a potential administrative permit, and everything else over that would be by interim use permit, except everything in the Coon Lake district would be by IUP.
Right.
That's what I heard, I think you all
And
said.
and with the application process to include a map of the off-street parking.
Correct. So that's what I heard.
So how come we don't want to do the overland to include the other lakes?
I actually, yeah, that's what I was
Okay.
gonna say. I
okay.
will make a motion to, accept.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if it's in an overland district,
Yep,
it's also going to
again,
be an
it'll be
IUP.
very, then again, because we can revisit if it's overstretching, I guess, right? We can, is that something that we, if
Yeah.
it's,
It's up to you folks.
okay. So, yeah, I would like to do the overland district, or, yeah.
Okay.
Shoreland overlay?
The shoreland overlay,
Yeah.
yep, as IUP.
This is, I'm not sure of the process here. Do we do one motion with
You
kind of all
could.
four of those edits, or?
You could. That's fine, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay.
Okay.
I will make a motion to approve resolution PC 26-09 as presented with the change of adding the shoreline, sorry, I gotta go up and down here, sorry, I don't have my right glasses with me. The shoreland overlay district where they will have IUP, it'll need IUP always.
Process, yeah.
Process for short-term rental.
Did I hear that you also wanted to be 3 bedrooms?
Right.
As well as amending that, changing it from 4 bedrooms down to 3 bedrooms for administrative license.
And the map
Parking plan.
of off-street parking.
Well, that will be with the IUP. So IUPs will have.
No, it wouldn't be with the IUP, so any
IUPs will have a map of.
They'll have a map.
no, but anyone, even the administrative licenses.
Maybe it's just require a map demonstrating off-street parking.
Yes.
Okay,
On
with a
every
map
single one.
requiring off-street parking.
I'm with you, I can modify that.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I have one other potential edit, if I may, which is we never addressed a good point of changing guests from 3 to 2, whether that's something we want to do as well.
Oh, additional guests.
Right.
Was it 3 to 2? Was it 3?
It was 3
It
over.
was 3, gentlemen suggested it, changing it to 2. I think it was John. And it seems like a good idea because if people have more than that, they won't, and there aren't a problem, nobody's going to know. But if there are more than that and it is a problem, there's a mechanism.
Non-registered guests from 3 to 2.
Right, because I mean, you're already dealing with people that are guests as renters. So it's almost could be like having more renters in there.
Okay, so we're making discussion within our motion here.
Yes.
Right? Any other discussions? Let's try this motion one more time.
For sure. Okay, we'll get this all in one, should we? All right, I will make a motion to approve resolution PC 26-09 as presented with amendment of the shoreland overlay will be IUP.
In Coon Lake District, which I suppose it all
No,
is.
it's part of this.
Yeah.
Yes. Along with requiring a map of parking for the administrative license
3 bedrooms.
Also amending the 4 bedrooms down to 3 bedrooms for the administrative license. And then amending 3 non-registered guests to 2 non-registered guests.
That's your motion.
That is
Is
my
there a
motion.
second?
Other than one, were we capped at the days of 120?
Are you wanting a clarification? We're discussing now, so we're just gonna have to kind of table the motion for a little bit.
Just
You
for
wanna discuss
that,
it?
yeah, I think that's an awful lot of days.
Mhm.
I thought that before, and I know I was overruled. And I do realize this is just an advisory board, and council's gonna hear it and can make adjustments.
But again, we're gonna be able, because a lot of these are gonna fall underneath IUP, we're gonna be able to really, can we,
Well, if you think, if your ordinance says 120 days, your IUP won't be able to reduce that without really good cause.
okay, all right, then you better, yeah.
So if you want it to be 100
Then
or
if you
or-
want to
or
reduce it, you
10,
better reduce
You
it.
should clarify the number, which you prefer.
Otherwise, they're gonna have to we'll have to have a just reason for them to reduce it.
Okay.
Okay, what?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, are you, so we still have the motion, we don't have a second yet. I will second it. Any discussion? Mr. Jorgensen?
No.
No.
Do we want city council to consider escrow?
That's a good discussion.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, well, 1% of property value came to mind, but maybe 0.6 is a little more reasonable, something to that nature.
Sure.
That will take into account the number of, the size of the house, pretty
Yep.
much.
Yep, it'll go off of there, yeah, good call.
Property value being the home and the property, whatever the assessed value is.
Assessed value.
Yeah, we can use what the county assess.
Yep, it's a
Did you say
visible number.
1 or 0.6?
1%?
Oh,
Percent.
yeah, 1%. Let's go with 1%.
Well, so, I mean, if
It's a
you have a
lot.
$500,000 house,
It's a
it's
$5,000.
$5,000 escrow. Okay, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here and say that seems really high to me. For
Let's-
somebody who's renting it out for 100 days or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think it's high.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Especially some of those houses could be a lot more valuable.
Yeah,
On the lake, so
true,
half
true.
a, like 0.5%, 0.5%.
We could. Remember, why are we suggesting escrow?
More
Understood.
skin in the game for the person that's renting it
Right, so.
to comply with the ordinance.
Yes, to ensure compliance with whoever is occupying there. So, 0.8, I mean, 1% I think would scare, because it's, as long as they're dotting their i's and crossing their t's, that money isn't going anywhere, right? But if they're allowing for non-compliance and it's an amount that's no skin off their back, then it's really not
Leave it with council, I like it.
serving its purpose.
Yeah, but again, just arguing on the other side, and not that I'm thinking of it at all, but let's say I wanted to do this with my property, for me to have to put up a $5,000 escrow, that's a lot of money. For me, for my VRBO that I might be renting 10 days a year or something. It just doesn't seem reasonable from a business point of view to me. I mean, I think
Also,
that-
you could have one bad renter, and you didn't want that bad renter, but you could have one person that just creates a problem, and then you lose that money, even though it's not like you didn't care. I mean, you trusted the renter, and they do something that violates the ordinance, and then you're out 5,000 or 8,000 or whatever the
Thank you.
percentage would be. So there should be some balance, so it's not onerous to
I
the
agree.
renter either, but it has enough to have them motivated.
Thank you, that sounds awesome.
Well,
I think if you,
but,
for,
go ahead.
excuse me, I apologize. If you,
Go ahead.
$1,000 probably would be adequate, I would argue. I think the purpose of the escrow, which we deal with in the public a lot of ways, is you're not gonna solve a whole lot of problems, but you want them to pay attention. And $1,000, I mean, if somebody's just gonna thumb their nose at it, well, okay, they win, but now they're forfeiting $1,000. And it's symbolic in a way. Will it hurt their pocketbook? Probably not, but it's certainly symbolic.
It's reasonable to me.
Yeah, and, or maybe it's $2,000. But in terms of non-compliance or penalties, we would come up with a process that they're entitled to. So the first violation, they're not going to lose their money. I don't think we want to do that either. It's is there a systemic problem with an operator that, you know, we would give them plenty of warning, say, hey, you have an escrow on the table.
Right.
You're going to lose this
Right.
if you do this again. You know, so it's not an instant loss.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and did you want to make an amendment, Brian, to the motion?
Yes, I would like to amend the motion to include that an escrow is of $1,000 is in place, subject to conditions defined, I guess, as we move forward with the short-term rentals, you know, which will be mapped out similar to what Planner Johnson.
Could you say that again?
That again?
Could you say, I didn't catch your last sentence.
Similar to what City
sure.
Planner Johnson was just detailing.
Yeah, I had heard the resolution PC 2609 with the shoreline overlay areas requiring an end-use permit, 4 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms being the shift from administrative to IUP, except in the Coon Lake, except in the shoreline zone. Parking requirements with maps, 2 non-registered guests, and $1,000 escrow.
That's the final amendment, actually it's just 1,000, so we have that motion, we need a second for the amendment, and then we'll vote on the whole motion together. So is there a second to Brian's amendment?
Second?
Okay, let's vote on Brian's amendment. Any discussion? All in favor say aye to $1,000 escrow.
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? So, no? Okay. So that motion passes. And then now we are going to vote on the motion that includes the amendment that Christina had put on. Any discussion? No? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, and that motion passes also. So,
All right, so we'll take it to the council.
Okay.
We'll let them chew on this a little.
yeah, true. I really want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I mean, it was great to hear all the speakers, and thanks for listening, everybody. So we've got more fun if you all want to hear how a planning commission meeting goes. So the next item is going to be a public hearing on SOTA storage, a conditional use permit, and site plan review. Thanks, everybody.
Good night. Okay. Well, again, good evening, everyone. I have my little notes presented, so I can't, it's hard to not say that, right? Application before you this evening is a request from SOTA Storage. All right, they're here. Thank you for your patience, obviously. Is for approval of conditional use permit and site plan review for existing self-storage facility located at 20563 Aberdeen Street. And on the screen, you'll see the site plan, or the site. The request would allow the construction of 3 additional self-storage buildings together with related pavement, grading, drainage, stormwater, landscaping, lighting, fencing, and other improvements necessary to finish out their project. This is not a request to establish a new self-storage facility. This is located at this location for many years. The present application is intended to authorize a continued operation of the facility and to establish current land use approvals for further expansion. This project's a little bit unusual in its zoning review, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, as that was part of a non-conforming expansion about 6 years ago. So we'll touch base on that here briefly. Again, the image on the screen shows the property and the surrounding area. Immediately east of Highway 65, north of 205th Street, access provided through the existing local roadway connection serving the property. No new public streets or access points are proposed for this application. The surrounding area contains a mixture of land uses, commercial development along the Highway 65 corridor, city ice arena just to the north, rural residential properties located further to the east, and wetlands and other natural features are present around the property. Again, the site contains 3 storage buildings, internal drive aisles, security fencing, lighting, stormwater facilities, and other improvements. The additional buildings, as we'll talk about, will be constructed within the existing development area. It would function as part of the current SOTA storage operation. Let's see. So here's a generalized site plan of the 3 buildings proposed, their access onto Aberdeen, and stormwater ponding, wetlands to the northeast. They have an existing treatment pond to the southwest, and we're all probably pretty familiar with it, but it's kind of the general layout. The zoning at this site is B2, Central Business District, which is primarily dedicated to accommodate retail, office, restaurants, recreation, and the like. Self-storage is not specifically identified as either a permitted use nor a conditional use within the B2 district. The existing storage is therefore historically operated as a lawful, legal non-conforming use. Section 46, Subdivision 04, however, authorizes City Council to consider other uses that it determines to be similar to it, permitted within the B2 district through a conditional use permit process. That provision creates the threshold question presented by this application. Planning Commission, ultimately the Council, must determine whether this particular existing self-storage facility, based upon its own characteristics, location, and history, may be reasonably considered an other use similar to those permitted within the B2. So your comprehensive plan, as we talk more about that, shows that the property in question is guided for future growth under the city's current comprehensive plan. Future growth area designation applies to land that may eventually accommodate development and greater intensities such as infrastructure and urban services become available. They're generally intended to retain development flexibility while preserving the ability to accommodate future growth. So that's kind of the long and short story there. Try to be brief as possible for y'all. The subject property is located again near Highway 65 and has functioned as a commercial site for many years. The current application does not introduce new activity to the previously undeveloped land. Instead, it concerns itself with continued operation. It's important to say those things a couple times. The approval history here, let me go back to the site plan. Sorry, the approval history here, City Council in 2020 approved Resolution 20-42, which was in your packet. That site plan approved, approval approved the site plan generally as they're proposing today, and added those 3 buildings and storage areas. However, only 1 additional storage building was constructed. Substantial portions of the expansion were not completed. Site improvements, landscaping, lighting, ponding, and other things remained incomplete. The 2020 resolution approved the physical expansion of the site, but it did not change the B2 zoning classification. It did not establish self-storage as a permitted or conditional use. So the property basically continued to operate as a legal non-conforming use even after the partial expansion was completed. So from a planning standpoint, it's kind of a no-no. Why they did it, there was probably good reason for it at the time. But when you have a non-conforming structure, allowing an expansion of that non-conforming use is not the greatest practice. So we're trying to get that cleaned up as part of this from a conditional use standpoint. Staff believes substantial expansion of a legal non-conformance without resolving its long-term zoning status is, again, not sound planning practice. Cities usually do try to end non-conforming uses and end non-conforming land use patterns. I mean, that's what you do. That's why you adopt comprehensive plans. That's why you think prospectively. However, in this case, the council did approve this, and it's been functioning as effectively a commercial site for years. And we do know the proposed land use is for future growth and development areas. So anyway, so in conferring with the applicant this spring, boy, that spring goes fast, right? You know, it was like May or anyway. We talked about all of this and we said, look, you're probably best to go through a planning commission process, conditional use permit, to get your site into a sense of out of non-conforming standpoint, and the CUP would do that. Therefore, they did take the steps to apply for a conditional use permit, submitted all the paperwork, and thus the CUP would solve all of those issues. So turning just to the proposed site plan, let's see. I know you have all had a chance to look at it, but for those watching on TV and YouTube world, three additional self-storage units north of existing buildings, approximately 38,880 square feet of additional area, together with new pavement, fencing, drainage, lighting, and landscaping. These buildings will be incorporated into the existing storage operation. Again, the pattern of entrance and access to the site remains the same. City engineer has reviewed the submitted plans, identified certain matters that must be addressed before grading and building permits would be issued. Nothing that would seem to be problematic for ultimately being achieved by the applicant. However, an NPDES construction permit, providing additional information on the infiltration basin, requiring separation between the infiltration basin and seasonal groundwater. They do need to update their wetland studies. They did do that in 2020. They typically have a 5-year shelf life, but none of them seem to be problematic to get those things done. Landscaping, let's see. As part of the city's site plan review, it does go through a number of things to make sure the site is brought into its best condition possible. In your packet, you had a site plan and a landscape plan, and the applicant does have adequate number of overstory trees, being 20 trees. As you see on the drawing in various spots. Again, I'm not a landscape architect. I just don't ask me to interpret these things too well. They are required a number of shrubs and things to soften the view of them. They're a little light on their number of shrubs. They would probably have to increase those by about 15 or 16 units. Certainly, the landscape plan should be revised to come into compliance with that, but otherwise, they appears to be acceptable. The building appearance and elevations, one of the conversations at the time, I think back in 2020, was when you build your building that they would look like the masonry building. Well, whatever reason it didn't, so they built that one. And so the next phase of the next 3 buildings would match the ones on the left, the metal-clad buildings. They did provide side drawing elevations in the packet, but sometimes pictures just do it better justice. And again, we have all probably driven past this many times. But if you haven't been on the inside, it seems very clean and tidy. There's a gate, you can't get in, so I can't really get in and greatly inspect, but as I peer through the gates, things certainly look fine. However, some things to think about is at the property there is barbed wire and all of the lighting is non-compliant. So as you see on these buildings, you'll see all these exposed lights. That one's a little better here. And in this drawing, you can see the barbed wire. Both of those, if this were a new project today, would not be eligible to be installed. You do have a conditional use permit opportunity now to require the applicant to update all of their lighting on the old buildings and to remove the barbed wire element on this project. Let's see. To remove the barbed wire element, there's an arm that's affixed there. They would have to remove that arm and remove that. So it's not while I appreciate they wouldn't want to do that, I think it's in my opinion, it's a pass-gone security thing and really would make that corner far more visually attractive, especially to the city's hockey rink to the north. And all of the lighting is non-compliant. They did not provide a photometric plan. They don't have any exterior lighting that's on posts. So they'll be required to provide a full photometric and meet the 0.5-foot candle at the lot line. But the 2 conditions to update all of the lighting and the barbed wire is in your resolution. So I think in a nutshell, that's the proposal and the application. Your packet has a draft resolution for support with some basic conditions that you've always probably seen in the past. Sorry, I thought I have put that in the packet. Yep. So this resolution is in your packet. As I mentioned, the number of conditions that are expected to comply with, meet all the city engineer requirements, and satisfactory to any permit issuance. Wetland reviews and requirements shall be met by the applicant. Stormwater management improvements shall be completed in accordance with approved engineering plans. All landscaping shall be installed in accordance with the approved landscape plan prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy for any buildings. So what that means is they got to do all the work, not one building and then do the rest later. No, it's all of the landscape. Get the stormwater stuff completed and the like. All current and proposed exterior lighting brought into compliance, all barbed wire fencing removed. Any future expansion or modification would require city approval. Again, it's by conditional use permits, so if they violate these, not that they would, you could claw this back for good cause, and they'd still have to come into compliance. So anyway, that's a mouthful. It's a good project. It really brings their facility into conformity with or out of a legal non-conforming status. So that's the staff recommendation. And that's it.
Eric, do you happen to know where that resolution from us would be?
116.
Oh, I'm
116.
sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Christina. Okay, Eric, anything else from you?
No, no,
Thank
I'll
you.
find that for you.
Okay,
I
got it.
apologize.
I'm opening the public hearing for this issue of SOTA storage. Does anybody want to come up to the podium and talk about it? Okay, come on up, and if you haven't already, sign your name and your address up on the sheet. You're coming up? Let's start separately to start out.
Should I explain who, like, these are builders, these are the owners?
Mm-hmm. Okay. The thing that when we have two, and especially three people out there, it's really hard to keep track for the minutes, and people tend to walk away from the microphone also. So, okay.
Hi.
Hi. You're
I'm
the builder.
Rob Lind, and I'm representing them as our project manager on this project. First, I think you guys are aware that this was an approved project back in August of 2020. The entire site plan was approved. It was approved with 4 buildings, not just the one that was built, but it was approved exactly how it was shown with the landscaping and the fencing. The fencing's done. The landscaping wasn't done. There was never a lighting plan that was requested. So we did everything, or the owners did everything that the city asked them to do at the time. And it's a legal non-conforming use right now. So we are, taking your recommendation and applying for a CUP to kind of clean it up. But, a lot of the things that you're asking seem to be kind of excessive based on the fact that it is an approved site plan. Like the fencing is done, so to remove the barbed wire, just driving here, there's numerous places with barbed wire. Typically when a site plan is approved and there's other phases, you don't go back and remodify the site plan. Phases can be done. And this, my understanding is it was approved as a site plan and one building was going to be built, multiple other ones are going to be built later. And there was never a timeline on that either. So it wasn't said that, you have to build all 4 buildings now, or this is going to expire in 10 years or anything like that. It was an approved site plan with 4 buildings, no expiration on when they had to be built. So, so let's see where else. So the lighting. So the lighting on their LED wall packs, they're actually the same lights that you have on your building, identical to the lights on the city hall. So the lights between the buildings, there's 30 feet, and I know you want like full cutoff lighting is kind of the recommendation. So they're on one side and they project, so they, light up that entire 30-foot between the buildings. If we had like full cutoff lighting, now we have to add it to the other side of the building too, because they're gonna just be, they point down. So it's a lot of cost. Just to bring in the lighting up, we're probably talking $15,000. The fence is complete and it was approved with the barbed wire. So it's not like we need to do anything more with the fencing. The fence where it is exactly how it was approved in 2020. So if we had to redo the barbed wire, it's removing those top caps, but to take that top cap off, now you have to take the entire top rail off. So it's not just pulling the top cap off, putting all new top rail back on, new caps. So again, it seems excessive. It seems like that some of those things should be grandfathered in already since this was an approved site plan in 2020. So the wetland, I know there's an issue with the wetland being, the delineation is over 5 years old. And I know that the LGU, so the local government unit, can extend that. And I guess we would ask that you would extend it if we provided a letter saying that, there have been no significant changes, have our delineator do that. They would just say that, you know, what they do, basically. I mean, things get extended like that all the time, like, you know, developments, I mean, that have multiple phases, a lot of them take over 5 years, and those wetland delineations are just, you know, can be renewed, or it's up to the local governing unit to extend those if they want. So I guess that's what we would ask you to do on that portion of it. Can I look at my phone, because that's where my notes are. I want to bring up everything that I had. So, yeah, so we're not asking for an expansion of that non-conforming use. That legal non-conforming use was already approved, so with the 4 buildings, so yes, we want to build more buildings, but it's not that we're asking to expand it. We're just asking to be able to build how that was approved in 2020. So the lights, the barbed wire, the wetland, I know I saw some notes come back and forth, how, like, you know, the landscaping was never done. There was never an ESCO created. The maintenance agreement was never done. But again, I don't think that we can hold the owners responsible for that, because they did exactly what the city asked them to do. They had a contractor at the time, and that they hired, and they did everything the city wanted. So at the time, the city, I don't know why they didn't, you know, I've done other developments before, and like erosion control, the city comes out every 6 months and tells me what to fix, or if, you know, with the stormwater protection plan, what to do. They would never let me get far enough to completion without having all that done. So again, you know, I think it's nothing that they did that we can say that, well, now we have to redo it all because they didn't follow some of these rules. I mean, they did everything they were asked. So I think that's pretty much that I have.
Were you involved in 2020 then?
I was not. I've been involved for like 2 months.
Okay.
So.
Because I am going to be asking about the landscaping. So I don't know if the owners want to address that, or if you want to. I mean, when we did this in 2020, I actually really remember this well, and we talked a lot about the landscaping.
Okay.
And so it surprises me that it's kind of poo-pooed right now that it was not an issue, and it is an issue.
Oh, I think they're not saying that. I mean, they want to do the landscape, but the fact that,
why wasn't it done?
I don't know if anybody just didn't make them do it. I guess they can answer that.
Okay.
I mean, I would have assumed that the city would have made them complete it before they issued a, you know, a certificate of occupancy. But I mean, so I don't know. I mean, so again, I see that as a city issue.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the
Yeah.
I do have a
manager?
question.
Yeah, we're going to do you first, and then we'll have the owners come up.
Yeah, you mentioned about the fencing, and that's something I'm very familiar with because I play hockey and rep hockey right there. Yeah, and the fence on that side of the building, it's not really straight, or it's not good or pretty. Yeah.
Sure, it might be like leaning a little bit.
Yeah, and for me it was a little bit of a safety because I had to park over there.
Okay.
So that's something. Well, is this something that either you can consider?
Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely, you know, fix any fencing that's, you know, in ill repair. I mean, I would assume that would not be an issue. I mean, I just think the taking all the barbed wire down, I mean, should kind of be grandfathered in since it's there. I mean, we're not adding any.
Yeah, but we're talking about what, 16 years now?
We're talking, so 2020, 6 years.
All right, 6 years. Yep, okay.
So,
All right.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, does legal non-conforming uses expire after a certain time? That you have to come back and get a CUP? I mean, I would assume that they last forever. I mean,
No, they do not.
They do not, okay. I don't know, but.
No, your legal non-conforming use lasts forever, but expansions are not guaranteed.
But it's really not an expansion.
Yes,
because
it is,
was-
sir. It's an expansion.
Well, it was approved before.
Your approval in 2020 expired. This was explained to to the applicants. You don't have to agree with me, and that's okay.
How did it expire? I guess that's what I'm curious about.
So if you don't do the project, your permits expire.
So, so I believe a building permit was taken out in April of 2021.
Okay.
And for one building.
Okay.
That building was done.
Okay.
I mean, all the fencing was, I guess, done back in 2021. Any lighting, yeah. So, I mean, again, I understand that, like, the stormwater stuff was never done, but I assume if they were told to do it, they would have done it.
The applicant has the responsibility to perform to the terms and conditions of the resolution. They
Okay.
shouldn't have to wait for the city to come and
Then again, I
say-
think we're fine, they're fine asking for a CUP, we'd like to clean it up too.
Right.
We're just saying that some of the issues, you know, considering the circumstances, maybe could be grandfathered in. I mean, I think they're open to pretty much everything. I mean, just trying to clarify some of the history
I understand.
and, you know.
I don't want to interrupt you, I apologize.
Yeah. So I'm good. Any other questions?
I just have a question. So then the fencing with the picture, so is the fencing around all 4 of the new buildings, around all 3
It's
of them?
around all 4 sides, and it does extend back to where the, if you could put that map up there, I could show you.
You bet.
It doesn't go around the last building.
Okay.
But the plan showed it going up to the building. So I guess when the building goes there, that section of fence would be removed. So the fencing, I believe, goes right there.
Okay, and that's already existing fencing?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, so it would just be that 170 feet when that last building went in. And I guess that's the other thing.
If you could come up to the mic, please. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so and I guess the other thing is, I don't think they're wanting to build all 3 buildings right now. I mean, I guess, you know, the landscaping, get that up to date, all the stormwater, you know, everything there that needs to be done, whatever else you guys require. But I think the goal now is just to build one building. So I guess I wonder, how is that gonna play into this? Are we gonna run into another issue in 5 years that we have to come for approval again? Or would we just get a building permit for, you know, the next phase for the next building?
I guess we'll find out. Alrighty. Maybe the owners could come up. You can come up, but if you want to both come up together, but please speak into the mic and state your names.
My name is Lucas Farron, one of the owners of SOTA Storage.
And Dave Knowles, another owner of SOTA Storage.
And were you guys, you owned the business in 2020?
Yes, yes, I do remember it. I think you were you here
No,
too?
Glenn and
You too? Oh, yeah. Okay, so the landscaping was not done. We were gonna do that when the whole project was finished, because it's like piecemealing it. But if the city wants it done, we can, you know, because we can't go all, we're not gonna bring it all the way to the back where the buildings aren't built yet. And then when we first started, we were only doing one building, and then we're gonna do this. The city said we didn't have to do the pond until we did the next building, which was, I don't know if that's in the notes or whatever, but, and then I
What's
guess-
your understanding on the lighting? Why is it non-compliant? Actually, I kind of remember talking about lighting also.
We did the lighting we did is that exactly as what we were told to do. So I don't know, the thing is I don't understand the lighting, like, the lighting that the city wants is gonna be less lighting in that area, which, you know, we have break-ins, we have meth addicts trying to live in units. I mean, lighting is good for that area. I mean, the hockey rink's not really lit up very well, actually. But yeah, so I think those lights that you guys are asking for, I think they go straight down, I believe. So it's gonna be, you know, a darker area, so I think more lighting is better for keeping crime out.
Do you remember the conversation, Glenn? You don't at all? Okay. I mean, I just remember that the discussion was about light pollution. And maybe that's why the the lights are supposed to be downward facing.
I mean, they are downward facing.
Mhm.
They're not like, whatever, I forget what the light, well, they don't, the lights go to the next building, really. Eric?
Your lighting requirement is two things. So even if you discount even if you discount the old buildings and you build the new buildings, you'd have to come into compliance with the full cutoff and the 0.5 foot candles. So no matter what, the ordinance stipulates all your new buildings have to be in compliance. The question that I think that we're chatting about is the old buildings. So,
Which would probably cost a fortune.
well, most of your fixtures are probably old on your two masonry buildings, probably about due for it, or maybe just put some shielding on them, which probably be actually more of a pain in the butt. But your power is run already. Probably go to more efficient lighting. Probably save some money there than the high pressure sodium ones you have on your masonry buildings.
So you want less light, so will that create, there's a question, will that create less lighting for that facility?
Well, the question, if there's a security issue and there's strategic points you want certain types of lights, then you maybe want to consider putting in some pole lights that are taller and spread light out more than just building lights that are 10 feet or 8 feet above.
I don't know if we're at a point where we can even get close to doing a recommendation. What do you guys think? I mean, do you want this discussion to go on, or? I mean, are you willing to go with the CUP if we make a recommendation of whatever Eric had?
For the new building? Yeah.
Well, for the whole project.
Yeah, I think the challenge for us too was like, you know, when we did the project before, you know, we had planned on building one building, as mentioned. We worked with the city and genuinely did everything we thought we were supposed to, and you know, we wanted to be in compliance, and we felt very confident, and we didn't even know we weren't until we reached out to Eric. So that was a big surprise to us, and you know, when we did that last one, we understood that, you know, we didn't have to build the retention pond until we built one additional building, which is what we're trying to do now. And you know, I have to look back in the notes too, and you know, thinking maybe the landscaping was a piece of that as well, right? Where as we build it out, we complete the rest of, you know, the project, and we totally respect the idea that the landscaping is a big portion of it, and are certainly, you know, willing to complete that.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if you're thinking that table this, give the staff a chance to sit down with the owners and say, okay, let's talk about a true phasing plan that will, I don't think they want to be back in the same boat with the non-conforming, right? But if we can outline a phasing plan that is embedded in the CUP that says, okay, you're going to build the first building, but no second building until everything else is done, and there's give and take there, we could bring that back to you next month with a cleaner proposal.
I would really like that, because I'm just hearing that a CUP that we recommend is not going to be acceptable to you the way it is, and so why even go through this process right now? Do you disagree?
What's not acceptable to us?
Well, it seems to me that, you know, part of the CUP was that your lighting was going to have to be replaced.
Barbed wire.
One of the big things was...
That's up to you folks, which staff would certainly recommend that cities do retrofit requirements all the time as part of a conditional use permit. That is a common practice, that it is a give and take. So if they want it, if they would seek a conditional use permit, which is discretionary on the city's part, then applicants typically tend to work with the city to bring the site into compliance. So there's give and take, but we could have that conversation.
Right. It just seems to me that you know, both sides here have kind of come out of the gate with something, attitude. And maybe you don't feel so, but I kind of felt that, you know, you're saying that we were on, the builder at least, we've complied with everything we can, or could, or did, and Erica's saying you didn't, and
Right.
I just don't feel,
I get the
and we
the
don't want to be
landscaping, yes.
adversarial, because we want to support business. I mean, that's really important to me as a business owner.
No, yeah, definitely want to comply. Thought we were the landscaping. I would say for sure we didn't. I mean, I think it was going to be finished as we did the whole project. So that's not what the city said, obviously. So
What's your schedule?
I guess I have just a quick question
Mhm.
too, on that lighting piece. You know, when we went through this before, you know, however many years ago, at that time, was the lighting a requirement? Or no, not at that time, but it is now?
I can't speak to what they expected.
Yeah.
Was there a requirement for lighting? Probably. Was the parameter of what the lighting has to be different? Maybe. Yeah. Did they require full cutoff at the time?
Yeah.
You know, who knows? But it's a requirement now, and again, conditional use permits are discretionary.
I guess I would just ask maybe for the consideration of the fact that we went through it at that time with the understanding that we were in compliance with lighting and it wasn't a problem then. And as far as we were concerned, we had approval to do this whole project. And we didn't find out until a couple months ago we didn't have approval. So I guess I would just appreciate if you guys would consider the fact that if this all went as it was supposed to and, you know, before, we wouldn't have this lighting issue anymore. So I guess that's the only thing I would just, you know, bring up and ask for some consideration on.
Yeah. And again, what's your schedule? When did you want to start building the next building?
Yeah, I mean, whenever we can, you know, work with you guys for, you know, a plan and resolution to move forward. So, I mean, we'd be ready to go and, you know, we got everything figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And when are you guys planning to do the other buildings? Because I would hate for you guys to come back again and we're going through this again. So, I definitely do want you to work as a phased plan
Yeah.
of how best to make sure you're not having to go back and redo lighting or fencing and so forth. So are we looking in the next 5 years to get these other 3 buildings up? Or, you know, again, like what is, just thinking farther ahead.
So
we're not like
usually
here
wait
again.
until they get filled up and then
Sure.
and then fill it up. I mean, we could have done it a while ago, but
rates went up and
rates went up, metal went up.
Materials.
I get it. Okay.
So-
Yeah, because I would just hate for you guys to come back again and be like,
Yeah,
oh,
appreciate it.
you know, kind of, you know,
Yeah.
I'd say our goal
blindsided,
would
like,
be-
what? We have to do what now again? And
Right. I would say we would try to make a goal of like 3 years, like build another one and then the final one another. So in 6 years, everything is done.
Yeah, I'd say 6 would be very reasonable. It could certainly happen faster than that
Sure.
too, but I would just want to make sure we're, you know, have a little cushion maybe.
Okay.
Eric, is that reasonable to have a
Yeah,
plan
I
that
mean,
goes
there's
out that long?
some phasing is important. The challenge is once they build, it's the operational piece of it, of the stormwater. And so, you know, okay, you're gonna have to build the stormwater piece in order to build the first building. You know, and because that's when you start adding those, because right now all of that's grass.
Yeah, so we
You know.
understand that,
Yeah,
like the
okay.
next building, we'll have to have that.
Yeah, okay,
stormwater.
so there's some pieces that have to go in, but could the landscaping wait? Yeah, maybe, but the stormwater systems probably have to go in first, and, so yeah, so some phasing that's clearly laid out, yeah, you can do that.
Okay. You want to come up to the microphone then, please?
Be nice, Rob.
Yes, I apologize if I came on. Public speaking is terrible for me, I'm just very nervous.
Said you
but-
didn't want to do it.
So I guess my recommendation would be to do all the stormwater, build all the pads and everything, because I would say they don't want to come in there with equipment again. So the phasing would just be the actual buildings. But, I mean, since you have to do the stormwater, I mean, all the grading has to be done, you know, grass has to be established, and however we build those pads, I think they'd be all ready to go for the next buildings. So there's no more dirt work that has to be accomplished. And then, so then the landscaping, I guess, whatever you guys work out, but as far as a construction, I think that would make the most sense as far as site work. So.
Okay. The rest of the board here, do you have any questions for the owners, comments?
No, I was just, the city noted that there had been multi-year inactivity with your previously approved plan. They informed you of this?
No, they didn't actively reach out to us and say that this isn't active.
Okay, didn't they suggest that you request a conditional use permit then?
Well, when we reached out to Eric, that's when this whole conversation started, and we were actually quite surprised that we weren't, ready to go.
Okay. I like the phasing idea. What your project manager just laid out, is that course of action feasible?
We'll have to see. I guess we gotta get pricing, for the pads, is that what you're talking about?
The only thing I guess that would be in question is like actually putting the, 2 additional pads in. Obviously, we put one in for the, additional building, but we just have to figure out if it makes the most sense.
And I don't mean necessarily the concrete or the asphalt.
Oh, just the level.
Just the,
sure.
just the dirt work.
Yeah,
Just the dirt work.
Yeah,
Just the dirt work.
Yep.
With the fill, so no more fill has to be hauled in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Thank you.
I do have one question for the barbed wire. How did that come into, is that a new thing in East Bethel, or what's going on with the barbed wire?
Okay. Do you want to answer it now, or do you want to, go?
I
your
can
session
answer
now?
it. It's,
I haven't heard
so
anything
the
like
city
that.
ordinance, I show it to you, but if you'd like.
It could just be a quick, they just changed that? and
No,
there's-
I don't know if it's when the final change was, probably 2020, 21. Barbed wire and electrical fences are prohibited. So if you came in today,
Yeah.
you would
I
not be
was
allowed
seeing,
to barbed wire.
I get it.
Yeah.
I just seen why.
That's okay.
What the,
And so what the city's saying is, as part of this give and take,
yeah.
Come on up.
And tell me guys if you don't agree with what I'm saying. I mean, is the barbed wire kind of an aesthetic thing? I mean, like maybe on the, on the road where you probably have less people trying to get over the fence could be removed, but maybe the back area that's up to the wetland and the woods, the barbed wire could stay where it's more of a safety concern.
I think a lot of it's aesthetic at least from a staff perspective, it's probably
So
aesthetic.
the road area could maybe be.
I mean, the
look
city
better
has
with that.
as people drive through our community, as it were, barbed wire might not be, doesn't necessarily look it's not that it's not necessary for X reason or Y reason, but aesthetically, this is your community. What do you want it to look like?
Glenn, do you remember any discussion on barbed wire?
No, this is news to me. Yeah.
So, and then one other thing I'm gonna throw out there with the lights too, and the guys, you can tell me if, this isn't good, but, so I know the full cutoff is to, eliminate the light pollution. And so the buildings, again, there's 30 feet between them, and the lights are on one side of all of those buildings, and they project, so they light up both sides. So, but that light really doesn't go anywhere because it's stopped by the other building. So there are 2 wall packs on the ends of each building. Now those, the light can, drift into neighboring property, or, on the other side, I guess it's into the woods and wetland. But if those were switched out to a full cutoff, meaning that they're gonna direct down instead of out, then it's, in a way, it's containing the light on the property because the ends aren't, shining onto the street.
Maybe as part of the continued conversation, you guys could develop a photometric plan
with that.
that would show some potential options.
Yeah, and I definitely think
Yes.
that that's the place to do those types of discussions. So, anybody else here? Okay, again, I don't want to come off as adversarial at all.
No, not
I
at all.
support you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't seem that we're at a meeting point yet. And if you can sit down with Eric and hammer it out so that you can come back with a CUP that looks good to you and looks good to us. The rest of you guys, though, I mean, I'm just one voice here, so if you want to make a motion and approve it, let me know.
No, I think you should either sit down with him and sort it out.
Should we make a motion to table this till the next meeting?
And I think the length of development, and I think they clarified that, but, because I mean, that's one thing I know you said that, well, we had approval, but the reality is, designs aren't open-ended forever. You know, they're just not. I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
and I think a clear
think that was
direction
it.
moving forward, again, for your guys' sake as well, like that we have it's set out forth, maybe just, 2 more weeks and get it laid out perfectly. And then if it does take 6 years, it's written out, we've got a phased plan. We can discuss the lighting, you can discuss the fencing, come back, and it'll be comfortable for both parties then, and it's
So we're gonna have a
good for
meeting
you.
with all you guys? Is that
No,
what-
No.
we'll
Oh,
just talk to Eric.
Just Eric?
Yeah.
Just poor Eric.
We need to bring you lunch, Eric.
and I think it is a great idea of, clean up the one side, it's a good compromise.
I
The
agree.
Lighting, same thing, good
Yeah.
compromise.
Yep, yep.
I think you can come up with some good plans and, because I mean, you guys do have a nice business. Don't be disappointed by what
Absolutely.
happened tonight because I think it's nice and clean and neat and I drive past it every day.
Yep.
And
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that you'll continue to be that way.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
We appreciate everyone's time.
Yes, no,
Hearing
thank you
us
guys.
out.
Well, so we
have
still
a
need a motion, though, I think, to
yeah.
table this, so.
Yeah.
If no one wants to make a motion, I will make a motion to table this until the next meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Could you add to that there's a lot of superfluous information that we don't really need to revisit with the next packet on this?
Yeah. Save a tree.
Like the environment.
What? Yeah, I'll do my best to cut it down, because you'll have this packet, and it'll just be an update, I presume. We'll have a photometric, a site plan,
yeah.
and an amended resolution.
All right.
Okay.
Wonderful.
That's the discussion. I think you guys have a record for the longest. Alrighty, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So this topic is being tabled until the next meeting. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the next item on the agenda. Wait, I'm sorry, I forgot to close the public hearing. And we're gonna have a public hearing now, a series of them. And we do these separately then?
I think if you're comfortable, I suppose if I think about the way I'll talk about this, we'll kind of bring them all together. And then as you get to the public hearing, and maybe as you open it up, you simply say, public hearing about the Plat, the CUP, and
Yep, I would love to do that.
Yep.
well, we're doing the text amendment first, I apologize. So we'll do,
Good suggestion.
all right. I'm way ahead of myself, so. See, we're saving all this time for, meetings that were short,
Yeah, right.
Okay. So tonight, the Planning Commission is being asked to conduct a public hearing to consider a recommendation to the City Council regarding a proposed text amendment Section 47 up to B3 Highway Commercial District. City received an application from Final Approach, Inc., requesting that business flex buildings be added as a conditional use permit within the B3 district. The proposed amendment would establish tenant use limitations, identify prohibited uses, and define business flex buildings. Certainly in your packet, there is exactly what this proposed text amendment is, but I did put it up on the screen. So they're asking to allow a certain type of building within a very specific zoning. In this case, it's something called the business flex building that would allow individual tenant space to be occupied by permitted uses that are already within your B3 district, and permitted uses within your industrial district, except those prohibited. And the prohibited uses would be ones that are listed, for example, self-service storage, like the previous applicant, truck terminals, freight terminals, logistics centers, things that are incompatible, create noise, odors, and the like, would not be permitted in these flex buildings. And ultimately, it's important that the city define what a flex building is. In this case, the definition proposed would be a commercial building containing one or more tenant spaces intended for office, showroom, contractor, and the related uses. These are low-impact, employment-oriented uses conducted primarily within the building. Some of them are combining office, service, and storage, assembly, and distribution functions while maintaining a commercial appearance compatible with the surrounding development. So in a sense, it's kind of a form-based zoning. It's a term used that, in a general sense, cities would say well, you can, as long as your building looks like this, we don't really care what you do on the inside. Now that's a broad brush, but it's kind of what the basis of form-based zoning is. So this is their proposal. It's important to state that this is a zoning text amendment only. It's not a comprehensive plan amendment. It doesn't amend the future land use map. It doesn't rezone any property. It does not change zoning district boundaries. It also doesn't approve any specific site plan, plat, building, tenant or property specific land use application. You're really just amending your law. So another thing to think about as you consider amending your B3 district for this text change, that it would apply in all of your B3 districts. In this case, it's not just this one site, it's this typically area within your Highway 65 corridor. There's not, in terms of acreage, I didn't do that calculation, but you can see the dark brown colors here are all your B3 districts. So as you think about this text amendment would apply not only in the Final Approach site, but also in these other areas. The text amendment would only make these business flex building, they wouldn't be by right, so to speak, but rather they'd only be allowed by conditional use permit. So they couldn't just do it, so to speak. They'd have to come and ask the Planning Commission, the city, for a CUP, and that would give the city the opportunity to evaluate the specific building, the specific layouts, and would that fit in those other areas potentially. You would evaluate traffic, building design, parking, loading, landscaping, and other compatibility. So again, it applies broadly. So in your packet and on the screen, this is your actual B3 district. It talks about what your permitted uses are, motor vehicle service station, your holiday gas stations, your quick trips, hotels, motels, clubs and lodges, taverns and bars, a lot of things, restaurants, retail, office. So these are the things that people can already do in those B3 districts. without coming and getting a conditional use permit. But by conditional use permit, they can come in and ask for certain approvals. One later tonight, we have place of worship in the B3 district. Schools, hospitals, retail, boat sales, research facilities, all kinds of cannabis stuff. So these are the things that would be by CUP. And then how would this fit into that that ordinance would be, we'd leave it to the city attorney to really tell us exactly where it should be placed when you get into the codification, but you'll see things listed as conditional use permits A and down the list through U on this page, and we would just add V to it. Again, so you're really giving a CUP for not only the potential uses, but also the building itself is the critical mass. So you really have two pieces of control. In the B3 district with this by CUP, also what would be permitted would be industrial uses by conditional use permit. So if it's an conditional use permit in the industrial zone, it would be by conditional use permit in this flex building. Again, the goal here is employment and occupational based occupancy, and the exterior of their building still has to maintain that commercial appearance. The current zoning of the area for this, in this case, is here. Obviously, this is the genesis of the request. We talked about this last month in the concept plan review. And then the land use, future land use of this site is mixed use. So in the mixed use zone, it's a broad brush of commercial, industrial, office, retail from a land use standpoint. So it allows a very wide array of future uses as the city outlines it in its comprehensive plan. Let's see. I'm going to find one map here. Oh, I didn't think I added that. Oh, there it is. In this case, again, you've seen this, I think I've shared this map with you last month, is we know the neighborhood in this area is pretty diverse in terms of how it's used. You have industrial in the upper left-hand areas, B3 district along the corridor and with the applicant, and you do have a mixed-use apartment building here. So it truly is a broad neighborhood. From a staff perspective, the proposed amendment raises a policy question for the Planning Commission whether business flex buildings should be added as a conditional use within the B3 Highway Commercial District. Again, the proposed amendment would not make business flex buildings permitted by right. Any future proposal would still require a CUP. Through that process, you'll be able to evaluate site-specific issues, traffic, parking, loading areas, building design, landscaping, buffering, hours of operation, tenant mix, and compatibility with other neighborhood uses. You're really trying to preclude some of those other operations, and the ordinance does do that about logistics centers, freight terminals, salvage operations, and the like. Planning Commission may also wish to consider whether the proposed use is consistent with the character of the B3 district. Some business flex buildings may operate with fewer customer trips, more predictable business hours, and primarily indoor activity compared to B3 permitted uses such as taverns, hotels, restaurants, and retail mixes. So sometimes just the B3 use in of itself would be far more impactful than potential flexible building. at least with the flex building, you would have an opportunity again to review those things through the CUP. So in your packet, there is a draft planning commission resolution that let's see, hopefully
It's on page 142.
Yes. Okay. Recommending approval of the text amendment with a number of conditions. With findings of fact. However, truly the only condition is that because it comes from an applicant, not from the city, is that it would be conditioned on ultimately all of their other elements being approved. So the city doesn't want to adopt an ordinance change on one hand and then not have the application be approved or actually processed in the other. Cities do this all the time. Hey, I want to develop this site, approve my site plan, but I also need a rezoning. In effect, it's a similar thing. So that is truly the only condition. The rest of these elements are relate to certain findings of fact. Many of those things that I had talked about. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll leave it to
Okay.
you.
On this particular one for the public hearing, this is really for input from city residents of why they might not want this to happen, right? Or for, I mean, other than just the one business itself.
Yep, this is not necessarily site specific.
Mhm.
So is
So-
this a good idea?
Right. So I am going to open a public hearing on this one item. And the public hearing is open on whatever item it is. The matter at hand. Does anybody want to address this text amendment? Yay. No one? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. At least the public has had a chance to speak on that. Do you guys have any discussion? None?
Let's get her done.
Well,
No, this is what we were talking about
Yeah.
last time of doing this type of thing, having a text amendment for B3. So this is what we were discussing. So this looks good.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number PC 26-11 as written.
is there a second?
The second, yeah.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? So that motion passes. Let's go on to the next item on the agenda, please.
Easy for you to say, right? All right. Okay. I know, and I apologize again, Mayor and Madam Chair and Commissioners, a lot of this stuff might be redundant, but, as the record, I probably have things, so if I lose my track of my maps, don't hesitate to correct me. Okay. The next item before you is a combined review of essentially 4 applications submitted as part of the final approach development. A preliminary plat, a final plat, a conditional use permit for a business flex building, and site plan review for proposed building and related improvements. My comments, obviously, if I misstate that, it presumes that these are pending approvals from the text amendment, so. The applicant's subject property is located, south of Ulysses Street and west of Highway 65. The property is owned a B3 highway commercial guided mixed use under the comprehensive plan and located within the metropolitan urban service area. The applicant is proposing approximately a 21,600 square foot multi-tenant flex building together with parking, loading areas, municipal utilities, grading, drainage, stormwater treatment, landscaping, lighting, and related improvements. For the purpose of tonight's review, the planning zoning text amendment will authorize the business flex building as a conditional use permit in the B3 district. The application for the commission therefore contingent upon approval and effectiveness of that proposed effective date of that proposed text amendment. If the proposed text amendment ultimately is not adopted, the conditional use permit for the flex building ultimately cannot be approved under the B3 district regulations. So as the council looks at this sequentially, one has to go before the other. So the current zoning of the site, again, is B3 and is eligible for a potential flex building conditional use permit. The land use of this area, future land use, still guides us as a mixed use, which facilitates a number of different types of commercial, industrial capacity in the long term. It's within the city's MUSA utility service area, so it is planned for growth and development. It's kind of obvious at this point, given where it is. Municipal water and sewer are available nearby to the site and can be extended to serve the development. And the previous finding by the council, as well as you folks, was that it's not a premature development. Council did approve the concept plan, the same one you folks reviewed last month. So that was all viewed generally favorably. Again, the surrounding development for the applicant is shown. You have industrial in the northwest and commercial to the east and surrounding the property, certainly adjacent to a busy state highway. The applicant has provided copies of obviously the preliminary plat for city review and the correlating final plat. Thinking first about the preliminary plat, it shows the proposed development, outlots, easements, access, wetlands, drainage areas, and the various subdivision framework. The original concept plan you saw last month, you had the lot 1, block 1 in this general configuration, and then there was block 2, and there was a lot here and a lot here. And talking with the developer, it was better accommodated to leave all of that in outlot until a better plan, I should say better, but a plan that's satisfactory to them and to the city potentially was better understood. So they're leaving it just as this one development to the east, as lot 1, block 1. The proposed site is approximately 10.23 acres, again zone B3. It meets all of the city's lot width requirements and setback requirements. Access will be provided by Ulysses Street as it's extended from the south from 185th Street. There'll be a cul-de-sac here, obviously, as shown. Municipal water and sewer is at 185th Street and will be brought to the south. So preliminary plat appropriately separates a principal development area from wetlands and other environmentally constrained areas. Most of this property to the west is in wetland condition. There is a county drainage, I don't know if the word ditch is correct, that runs through the west, east to west here. And the applicant actually even went above and moved some of their facilities to accommodate some endangered plants in this area here. So they've been good to work with and tried to manage their site as best they can. Overall, staff found the preliminary plat substantially implements the proposed concept plan and provides a reasonable subdivision framework for the property. City engineer will review this again, same with the city attorney as it moves forward, but fundamentally it's pretty good. That's the technical term, right? So there's the final plat, and the final plat terminology, basically it looks for the final legal definitions of the property versus some of those more nuanced elements, and it reflects the preliminary plat. Before the final plat would be recorded, the city would get a Mylar, and it would again be reviewed by city engineer and city attorney, and we wait for their blessing, of course, but certainly it appears favorable at this point. So the preliminary plat and final plat are in good condition. Let's see, let me skip that. Okay. So turning to the conditional use permit element of this application, again, the proposed building is 21,600 square feet. Let me just put that up on the screen so people have an idea of what they're proposing. It's designed as a multi-tenant structure. It could accommodate office, showroom, service, research, assembly. And under the proposed business flex provisions, CUP is intended to allow this type of multi-tenant building, certainly maintaining that commercial character, which I think it does. Maybe that's subjective, but it appears to me to be the case. The individual tenant spaces would be eligible for occupancy by uses permitted in the B3 district and the light industrial uses under the proposed business flex. The CUP would not automatically approve every future tenant. Any tenant use requiring a conditional use permit, either under the B3 district or the light industrial, they would have to come in and be before you before they could be in this facility. I won't talk about prohibited uses. We've covered that a little bit. All of their operations would have to be indoors, in effect. Storage of things outside storage, equipment, materials, trailers, containers would be prohibited, etc. Certainly routine deliveries and loading could occur within designated areas, but they could not interfere with parking, fire access, internal circulation. The tenant administration owner responsibility here will be important for the owner to ensure that each of their tenants understand the terms of the CUP because the enforcement is ultimately on the owner, and so they should have a clear vetting process for those potential tenants. I'm sure they will. So cities use conditional use permit standards about how it evaluates CUPs. In this case, does it impact surrounding properties? Again, we talked a little bit about that a few times now. Again, the surrounding area is pretty dense with industrial to the northwest and commercial, B3 commercial surrounding it. Traffic. All right, let's talk about traffic. And we'll talk about traffic later too. So let's see. Which is the best one? I'm sorry. Which is the best? This. The applicant did submit a traffic review study. We received it today. I know they were working on it for a while. But in effect, the concern that the city has is not just so much the internal traffic in the site, but rather how will it affect the sites to the north. I'm sorry for the bouncing. To where the Holiday gas station is. The city seeks to have its lighting and interfaces to be level of service D, meaning how long is the queuing times. And it's expected that this development will not affect those queuing times. And so we've received this traffic study, and that will be forwarded to the city attorney for review, but the general element of it is that it's non-problematic. City will want to preserve its rights to say, hey, if something changes, the applicant would be required to do a new traffic study or potentially make some investments in the area to accommodate their uses. Given that it's only 21,000 square feet, I doubt that would really create that much of a change. However, as the rest of their development expands to the west, which would be part of a different analysis, that could impact that. Looking for my civil drawings. We usually leave these to engineers, but here we are. So this drawing shows the approximate locations of the water and sewer extensions that will come down from Ulysses, not to mention the road itself. These will all have to meet city engineering specifications. The city engineer has reviewed these designs. The initial report is in your packet. Certainly there is always some concerns and needs of the city engineer, but generally they all appear to be manageable. Ultimately, we'll seek city engineering approval prior to council adoption. And when they install these, they'll have to go out for bids, and the city will have to approve all the plans and specifications before it would be constructed. Are there any potential impacts to property values from this type of conditional use permit? Staff wouldn't think so. It's an attractive building. That's also part of the reason you have the public hearing, to gain that maybe other subjective viewpoint. Maybe we'll hear some comments, but again, it meets the terms and conditions of the comprehensive plan for mixed use and future development. So, water and air quality concerns, there really are no air quality concerns. Again, the flex building parameter restricts any noise or noxious odors and the like. I'm sure the internal use in that building will be self-limiting for any of those air concerns. The applicant has done extensive wetland delineation and studies. They appear to be in compliance and addressing any things there. Again, the city engineer has reviewed their initial submission. We just got back their wetland boundary analysis, and if I recall, it was in proper order, but all that would be contingent on final approval. So ultimately, the conditional use permit is found to be favorable from a staff perspective, and meeting what I think the intent of what these flex buildings was meant to achieve. Where's my picture? So turning finally to the site plan review, a lot of this stuff is redundant, but two things that are not are the parking and loading conditions that are there. And we'll talk more about this in the church conversation. This west side of the building, as you see all this parking here in front of those loading docks, in front of those doors. That is a bit problematic. We'll ask the applicant to address how that can be rectified with an updated site plan, an updated traffic circulation plan. Certainly have plenty of room to manage that. And from a parking condition, they are more than adequately parked. So for every 350 square feet, they need to have one space. And in this case, with that math, they need to approximately have 62 parking spaces. They're definitely showing over that, approximately 195. But again, there's some of them that probably would need to be removed or adjusted here, about 38 or so in front of those loading docks. We will ask for revised parking and circulation plan as part of this final approval with the council. Their landscaping, I'm just going to talk about waste enclosure real quick since it's here on the screen. The city does require proper waste enclosures, and it's located in this island to the west of the building. That may very well be the best option for it. The east side of their structure is the architecturally most, what is the nuance, the flavor of the building. So putting a dumpster out there probably, or structure out there isn't the best. So this is where they're proposing it, and it would meet the city's rules for enclosure. There's masonry, and it would match the building. Now, the last thing I would offer is if I can find, here's the landscaping. The landscape plan appears to provide the required overstory and understory shrubs. The trees are concentrated in part near the northwestern corner of the development and may help soften the views from the apartment building. Obviously, this apartment building is to the north and west. This will be a green space with these trees. Maybe they won't be planted in this exact spot, but there is a slope. And then this is also a green area here. And along the east side of the facility, there's all their shrubs. Certainly, it's not meant to be a park or anything like that, but they're meeting the minimum requirements of the city's caliper, number of shrubs and such. The mechanical screening of the let's see, there we go. City would require that all of the mechanical things, the HVAC units that would likely be on the roof, would be below the parapet height. In grayscale, you can see this rooftop unit, RTU, and then also there. The applicant did provide an updated drawing, and that's this one. Try to enhance the west side appearance. We just received that today. Maybe some windows on this west side would add to that, but you know that it probably would help. But it certainly isn't attractive as it is, and meets the specifications of the ordinance. So, planning commissioners, that's a lot to go through. The plat and the conditional use permit and the site plan review all appear generally favorable. In your packet, there is a resolution in Exhibit O. I also put it up on the screen. Beyond the findings of fact, there's a number of conditions that are carried out as the site is further defined and further developed. City would review these things further, namely the traffic circulation, utility grading, stormwater management, and the like. Want to make sure the applicant is responsible for ensuring compliance with the CUP by their tenants, no outdoor storage, no prohibited uses, that the site is actually developed as shown. There won't be allowed to be any changes to it. Maybe if a window shifts here and there, but that's one thing. But so I'm happy to go through all of these if you prefer, but you certainly have them in your packet, and that's it.
Okay. Thank you. The resolution is on page 294, and I'm guessing not all of us have had a chance to read it. It's kind of long, and I would like us to read it before voting on it, but we're first going to have the public hearing on this, which has to do with the approval of the preliminary plat, final plat, conditional use permit, and site plan review for final approach East Bethel addition and business flex building. So we're going to have a public hearing on that right now. The public hearing is open, and if anyone from the general public first would like to come up and give their opinion, you are welcome to do so. And if anyone from Final Approach would like to come up, you're certainly welcome. And if you could just please state your name and your address.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. I'm Brian Boss with Final Approach. I'm here to answer questions tonight. I don't have a lot of sales pitch to give you, but I just wanted to be present and available if you had other questions. So.
Fabulous.
I should add, I do have samples of our proposed building exterior if you'd like to see them.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Brian?
No.
Everybody's
Nobody?
tired.
Okay.
Could I
You're
see
lucky.
the proposed?
Sure.
Could I please?
Okay, anybody else would like to speak to this issue? Okay.
This is a sample of the exterior. These are steel panels or metal panels. They're a little different in the sense that they're rigid and have a texture to them. They're not what you would see in a traditional steel building that would have corrugated steel. These have a texture, and in many municipalities we've substituted these where stucco or ephes was required. So it's got a much different look, and they're in about 16 or 24-inch width panels. They're installed vertically, and this is just the skin of the panel, but it's an R24 insulated panel, so it's high efficiency as well. So that would be the charcoal color that you see on the drawings. The window and storefront frames would be black aluminum, pretty straightforward. The canopy and the areas around the entrances that are black in color are an ACM or a composite panel that would conform the canopies and those stripes that are vertical. And then lastly, a wood grain lap type siding that's interlocking, something like that, be installed horizontal. So just wanted you to be able to see and touch, if you want, the actual products. This is a smaller sample of the big panel there, so you don't have to carry the big one around, Eric.
So the horizontal, is that the same material basically as the vertical siding?
It's not. The horizontal or the wood grain product is a composite product. But it's not metal, so it's a plastic or a resin type product. It's interlocking, installed like more of a residential looking siding, but it's not a residential product.
How long does that last, do you know?
Longer than I'll live.
Yeah, that's what your answer was last time too.
Did I hear you correctly that you said that panel was R24?
This one is not, but they do make them in 24-inch. They're actually they make them over 40 inches wide.
I mean the R value.
Oh, the R value, yes, it's correct. It's R23 point something.
That's amazing for
yeah.
that thin of a thing.
Yeah, this is why we're interested in it. It's high efficiency and longevity is really good, and so we've used them in other buildings and they perform very well. So I'll deliver this to Eric unless you all want to see it. You're certainly welcome to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just pass it around, right?
What are the walls? Is it a stick building or is it?
It's a steel building.
Steel.
Yep, so it would have a steel framework, and then, of course, we're cladding it with other products.
Yep.
The wall insulation would be a foam-filled panel.
Oh, it is, okay.
And then the roof insulation would be a combination of batt insulation layers that would amount to an R49. And so a steel roofing, so everything about this is maintenance-free and long-lasting. That's our goal here, and in a way that's looks good. So, yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah, it looks good.
Thank you.
Excited.
I don't have anything more to add. If you have more questions, awesome, fire away. But I did want to mention, I sure appreciated Mr. Johnson's cooperation along the way. We've been moving at breakneck speed, and we've been cooperating nicely, and so kudos to him for his efforts to help me keep going on a timeline. So thanks.
Thanks so much.
Anything else?
No.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm closing the public hearing, and on page 294 of 339 is the resolution that we may or may not be voting on. So let's take like 229. Oh, we can share. So let's take a minute and read it. This one, and then it goes to the next page, and then the next page. Yeah. I'll see if I can find it on my computer. Okay. I just got there.
Jumping the gun or not, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution PC 26-12 as written.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion?
Well, this was a better plan than your last time, so it's all good.
Okay.
Yep.
Looks good to me.
You good? Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed? So that motion passes. And we have another item to talk about.
Bet you see some of the same stuff, right? Okay.
And then this is on page 302 for us, if you have page numbers.
Okay. Madam Chair and members of the commission, this next item is a request from Final Approach Development LLC for a conditional use permit to allow a place of worship within the proposed Final Approach Business Flex building located east of Ulysses Street and west of Highway 65. The property is proposed to be platted as Lot 1, Block 1, final approach, East Bethel Addition, is zoned B3 Highway Commercial within the B3 district. Place of worship is allowed through a conditional use permit. Renovation Church is the potential tenant, proposed to lease approximately 15,000 square feet, or about 3/4 of the proposed structure, a multi-tenant building. The worship area would accommodate up to 400 seats, and the applicant indicates that the initial lease would be for approximately 5 years. As we know, the building and property being reviewed through a separate preliminary, final, and conditional use permit site plan review applications. This application is limited to whether the place of worship may occupy a portion of the building and what conditions should apply to that use. Again, the area occupants of that neighborhood contains a mixture of multifamily, residential, senior living, highway commercial uses, contractor, business services, entertainment uses, and some undeveloped lands. Certainly you've seen this now 3 times this evening, but it's important to show it one more time. And the proposed business flex building is designed to accommodate multiple commercial tenants, including parking, loading, maneuvering, landscaping, lighting, etc. Let's see. The applicant proposes that Renovation Church would occupy, again, 15,000 square feet, and that the principal place of worship area would accommodate up to 400 persons. The church anticipates 2 Sunday services, generally beginning at 9 a.m. and then 10:30 a.m., together with smaller weekday and evening activities. The application also outlines that approximately 195 parking spaces would be available during worship services. And a portion of that would be created by temporarily using the truck maneuvering and loading area during Sunday services. So this is the same area you see on the screen that we mentioned earlier. Probably needs some modification to better deal with truck traffic and the like. However, if this tenant is going to occupy 15,000 square feet of the building, that conflict might not be as much as one anticipates. Anyway, you've seen the site plan a few times now and the building layout and how the tenant entrances may be. So ultimately, the owner will have to work with the tenant to define which space of this building is going to be best used for all their uses, and the internal build out of what that looks like is we have not seen that yet, but again, they want to accommodate up to 400 persons or so. Proposed place of worship certainly would involve concentrated attendance during scheduled services with some limited activity during the week. That operating pattern probably will be compliant or complement weekday other commercial tenants when service times do not overlap with normal business operations. The church use would also be primarily indoors, would not involve outdoor storage, industrial noise, odor, and dust. However, a congregation of 400 persons could generate substantial parking and traffic demand over short periods. Conflicts could occur if other tenants are operating during those church services. I don't think they'll be problematic, and it'll be up to the owner to manage that push and pull between them. The city's parking standard requires 1 parking space for each 3 seats based on design capacity of the main assembly hall. So again, in this case, you're looking for 400 persons. So that minimum parking requirement would be 134 spaces. I mentioned 195 are shown, but there is that conflict in this area. Our approach at this point is asking the applicant to submit a revised parking plan and drawing that shows how these things will all work together. one option is to not stripe these spaces here, and the applicant or the tenant, I should say, would be obligated to put up some temporary parking ropes, bands, I don't know what it is, but I'm thinking about that some more. We'll ask the applicant to dwell on that, because that sounds easy in July. It doesn't sound so easy in January. So we'll have to see kind of how that might play out. They certainly have enough space. It's just a matter of how does it all function. Fire lanes, emergency access, overhead door routes, and loading areas will have to be a little bit better determined, and I know that'll be something we'll ask them to do before it gets in front of the city council. Ultimately, it'll have to be approved by the fire chief and the city engineer. We have had some preliminary reviews of that, and some of those are favorable, but there still needs to be some tweaks, especially around this east side of the building for the turning radius of the trucks as they come around. If people are parked in this area, that might cause some conflicts, so we'll have to have them refine that a little bit. We're pragmatic enough to know that it is never going to be a perfect turn lane for anything, but it needs a few tweaks. Things I haven't touched upon. Final plans would be reviewed by the building official for this structure, and how it's used in terms of its occupancy for 400 persons. Basically in terms of entrances and exits, egress and ingress, bathroom number of fixtures, probably is a little different than a commercial building of what one might otherwise anticipate. So they'll have to come bringing that into compliance when they submit their building plans. There's a fire capacity of any kind of meeting space. We all have seen those occupancies, so they'll have to make sure they're in compliance with that. Water and sewer, again, would be served by the facility, would be served at the facility. There is no current signage plan submitted with this. I know the applicant is thinking about that and starting to plan how they want to sign this building. Given that it's a multi-tenant facility, they would have to come back to you folks with a comprehensive sign plan, much like it was the sign back from 2 meetings ago. So they would provide that. Talking about impacts on surrounding properties, there, as it relates to the place of worship, probably none. The traffic study also indicated that it would not change the level of service by the holiday and its interface with 65. Again, we just saw that traffic study today. We'll send that to the city engineer for review, but level of service D is the minimum, and they're well in compliance with that. Property values and building design, again, we've seen the building a couple occasions, and the place of worship should not affect any other property values or affect neighborhood use, I guess. It's compliant with the comprehensive plan. Again, the building is the key for a flex building, and as long as they're doing things in the building that are consistent with those rules, the comprehensive plan should be met. Church shouldn't generate any air or water quality problems, I wouldn't think. So at the end of the day, our staff recommendation is that it should be approved. We have a number of conditions, like the other resolution, that the most important one, I think, I mean, they're all important, of course, right? But if the traffic becomes a problem on Sundays, for example, that they'd have to revisit that and make any necessary changes. Sometimes churches or private and other businesses, they're busy on a weekend and they start sending volunteers out to manage traffic. No, can't do that. So we do have a requirement that they would have to engage the Anoka County Sheriff's Office to deal with any traffic management that might be happening. But generally, positive, and we have a number of conditions, and that's our recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I'll have the public hearing, and then I do have a question on the resolution. But let's open the public hearing for this item. Does anyone, first of all, from just the general public, want to come up and talk about this item? And if not, does anyone from the church or Brian, anybody want to come up and talk about the project? And if you could state your name, please.
Hello, my name is David Sorn. I am the lead pastor of the church, Renovation Church. I just want to say thank you again to Eric for working quickly with us on this, and to all of you for what you do. No comments necessarily, but just want to make myself available if you have any questions. And thanks for putting in a late night.
Well, thank you for staying too. So in the resolution, it says that outdoor worship services, amplified outdoor sound, festivals, tents, food trucks, commercial rentals, and similar activities are not approved. Were you aware of that? Unless you went through another permitting process.
That there are no food trucks or anything outdoors ever allowed in the resolution, is that what it says?
Let me read it then. It just says outdoor worship services, amplified outdoor sound, festivals, tents, food trucks, commercial rentals, and similar activities are not approved through this conditional use permit and would require separate city review and permitting.
Okay, I mean, that's pretty standard for what we've done in other cities. We don't really do outdoor worship with that many people, but sometimes we might have an event where you just bring in a shaved ice truck for kids afterwards or something. But like in Blaine, we have to go through a whole permitting process for that particular event.
Mm-hmm.
But it is allowed if we do go through the permitting process, and is that my understanding that it would be? Okay, yeah, that's fine.
We just did one, commissioners, for the Buddhist temple, where they do an annual event, and they just come and get it's a temporary event permit, so.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So you're used to that process.
Pastor Dave, Renovation Church staff offered that you initially host 2 Sunday services with start times at 9 and 10:30 a.m. At your other locations, after the initial services were implemented, what other sorts of time slots were filled?
What are the time slots fulfilled, did you say?
Well, I'm just wondering if you initially started with 2 services at your other locations, and then
it'll
after
probably
some time.
be somewhere between 1 and 2. I think we put 2 on the application just to kind of be conservative, but yes, I would say either one service at 10 o'clock or the 2 at 9 or 10:30. It's a little hard to guess how many people will come once we build it, but somewhere in between there, depending on how many people show up when it's built.
Yeah, but I was just wondering if you've had to offer additional services at your other locations. And
at our main location, we have we have 4 services
on Sundays.
Yeah, it's a large location. But on our second location, we just started in Shoreview. They have 1 service, so this would be significantly smaller than what we have at our main location.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It will probably be 300 to 500 people, somewhere in that range, just if you're thinking what's the size of that location.
Still awake?
I'm wide awake.
Good.
Have you read through the whole resolution?
I have not personally seen the resolution.
So I was just curious about, most of these seem pretty straightforward. I was just wondering about if you were number 14, advertising signs, banners, portable signs, temporary signs, flags, and similar promotional displays are not permitted through this conditional use permit and would require separate city review and permitting.
And that would not include the permanent fixture sign, right? Because we'd be allowed a sign in the sign permit.
Well, so I mentioned, so the applicant, which final approach, they're still planning to come to the city with a sign plan. We don't have a sign plan yet at all. So that's kind of the big piece of it. You know, where does it say renovation church? I mean, you're entitled to that, right? But as it relates to other banners and flags and things like that,
It's the same thing for us in other cities. We kind of know the drill. We got to go. We're doing a separate monument sign right now, and we got to go through the whole process. And so.
Okay.
So, but if there's a temporary sign they want to put up, a city has a separate process for that.
Yeah, just before we recommend approval, just want to make sure you're fine with what's in there.
Yeah, right.
So,
I mean, I agree. So on Easter, you want to put some flags, are they going to have to get a permit for that?
Like, when I mean flags are, it's not so much the American flag as it were.
Well, no.
It's like a bowhead banner.
Rather these banners and temporary, I guess, advertising is probably the better, and thus the word, advertising signs, banners, right? That's kind of the desire.
We're just looking out for you.
Appreciate that.
I mean, when I went through this process many years ago, there was something that I objected to, and the administrator at the time said that, we just do this on a complaint basis, and it's like, no, I want to know what's allowed and what's not allowed, and be able to do it.
Right.
So, I mean, Glenn's question is, are you okay with this wording? Is it up there on the screen?
Yep.
Number 14.
Number 14. I mean, the city can't grant signs like that or flags or anything that's contrary to the ordinance by CUP. I mean, so that's really what we're saying is that if there's something else somebody wants, they would have to come back and get a separate permit.
That makes sense. That's pretty standard for us. So no objections.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? We're good.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion? I did have a question about the parking. I mean, it does look like if you had to get a fire truck back there, it's going to be tough, isn't it?
Yeah, the fire truck, I mean, I don't want to put words in the fire chief's mouth, but their concern is be able to get either around the building as a whole, or to be able to get the apparatus arm over and to the other side. So we do want to see a better design for that. We do in your packet of stuff. There is some turning radius things in there, but as they come around that east side, they're hitting that row of parking on the east. So there'll have to be a few tweaks on that.
Okay. That's for the previous one, not this one, isn't it?
Say that again.
That would be addressed for the previous item.
Yeah, all of it is going to need to be kind of part of their parking parameters here. So again, it's as they come around this side and the turning movements just don't work here, and to some extent even on the north. So I know the applicant's engineer is working with the fire chief to better identify those turning lanes. And again, same with these areas in front of the loading docks. Again, if the place of worship is 3/4 of the building, it might not be that big a problem.
Condition number 6 is laid out on the resolution. Says that the approval will be by the city before issuance of a building permit. The word city That's the engineer, that's
Yeah.
affiliated staff, that's the fire chief, that's?
All of them.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure.
Yep, it'll be in there, ultimately, they'll provide a roll of plans, and one of those would be C dash, something, and
Okay.
that'll show turning radiuses and compliance with that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the word city encompassed a
Oh, yeah.
number of positions.
I know the fire chief and city engineer wouldn't let that slide too far, so.
I'll bet you were not sure that we were going to be looking at this, were you?
At what?
That we were going to be looking at this
Why?
at this time of night.
Oh, no, I
Yeah, yeah.
actually did. I think we're ahead of schedule.
Good.
I think you're right, Eric.
All right. Any other discussions on the resolution?
No.
I'd make a motion, but I've already taken two, so
I've
let somebody
taken
else.
one too, so I'll have at it.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of resolution PC 26-13 as it's laid out in Exhibit G.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? So that motion passes. Which brings us to agenda item number 10, I believe.
Yeah. Commissioner Downey, did you say 12 or 13? PC 12 or 13?
Or you said 1-3.
And
As it's laid out in the packet as 12, but
Okay, I
on the
might have
resolution it's
mislabeled- I might have
13.
mislabeled one, but I follow you.
Yep.
Okay.
so the next steps for final approach in the church, that's going to a council meeting
All of it.
in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then, so the challenge there for all of the council and certainly staff will be to kind of try to get these loose ends buttoned up, and while there won't be public hearings per se, but we'll try to get through as fast as possible.
Exactly. Okay. So
Would it be
good luck at the
possible-
council meeting, guys. What's that?
Would it be possible to table this item for,
I think it would be possible.
Unless we can go quick.
this
Almost
seems
till
like it
11 o'clock.
require a little more thought and time than the time of evening warrants for cogent thought, is my concern.
What is it?
One possibility, though, is that I think you have a person here with wanting to give input.
Okay.
on
Okay.
this.
Oh,
Okay.
true.
I'm speculating. Yeah. But I will.
Yeah, that's
I will
very
be-
fair.
I would be brief. Okay, so, planning commissioners, the last item before you tonight, at least in terms of the action items, is a proposed amendment to Chapter 66, Article 5 of the City Code relating to administrative subdivisions. In your packet, there are two red lines. And the first is an administrative lot split potential ordinance change. The current ordinance provides that a property may only be divided once through an administrative simple lot split process. That restriction applies permanently, regardless how much time has passed since the original lot split. Over time, that permanent restriction can become difficult to administer. It may require staff and future decision makers to determine whether a property or a predecessor parcel was involved in some lot split years ago, or even decades. The proposed amendment would replace permanent restriction with a 10-year look-back period. Under that language, the property that has been involved in an administrative lot split would not be eligible for another lot split for another 10 years. So it's nobody's going to be doing this to quickly subdivide their property, trying to get around the city's subdivision rules. If they wanted to make a subdivision prior to that 10-year, they would just have to follow the city's standard subdivision process under Chapter 66. creating a 10-year look-back period would not reduce any lot size requirements, frontage, access, buildable area, septic system requirements, park dedication, or any other zoning or subdivision regulation. It just resets the clock for someone. We've had applicants come to the city probably well before my time. I don't know if I had this before you with the Buddhist temple where they had their. So I have no idea what they did 30 years ago or 40 years ago. So how do you research that? We're not title analysts. You know, we don't have that real ability. So a 10-year window is probably something we can dig around a little bit and get a sense of what's happened. Second potential change is whom gets to, or who gets to make a determination of a simple lot split. The ordinance is a little confusing of where I'm sure it shows it in red line. In section 1 here, the zoning administrator may approve this administrative subdivision with conditions. But the paragraph above that, it says the city council shall reach a decision. And so that is a conflict. And talking with the council, that should be cleaned up. And ultimately what they prefer is that they are the final decider, and that's stated in number 2. The council shall consider the staff report, findings, and recommendations and may approve with conditions or deny the administrative subdivision based on compliance with this chapter. So they're asking in part 1 above that staff basically review the application, you know, make a staff report and a recommendation, but the council is the final arbiter of the decision. And so those are the two changes that council has asked you folks to hold a public hearing and to weigh in on. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to have a public hearing on this. I'm opening the public hearing. And would anyone like to speak to this issue?
Now you have to.
I'm Kay Anderson. I was here about a year ago. I'm still working on this. And I don't even know if I apply anywhere because you told me I'm not on meets and bounds anymore, so.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
So I'm going to talk about an ordinance that probably doesn't solve my issue, but.
It might, you never know.
It might not. I can trace my great-grandparents' ownership of a property back to the 1800s, okay? So when we talk about what the land the temple is on, it was split in the early 1900s when great-grandma and grandpa gave property to their son. And then in the 70s, it had another split off it when my parents owned it because that's how they paid for their carpenter to do their house. So when you start talking about one lot split, or no one lot split in the life of the property, it's really crazy. So I'm really happy that Eric brought this amendment forward and rewrote this because it didn't make any sense the way it was. And I've been struggling to figure out if I fit in it or not now that I read it, but doing a PUD to split 20 acres into 2 10-acre lots. I'm already spending $8,000 to $10,000 to do the PUD and the lot split, but that adds probably another $5,000 to $10,000 to it to do the PUD part of it. So it gets really expensive. So I really appreciate the opportunity that lot splits are still here and that it's only a 10-year look-back period. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for waiting it out.
Thanks, Kate.
And appreciate your comments. All right. So do you feel that you're able to, thank you, people. The public hearing is closed. Okay, so as for discussion, do you think that you can intelligently discuss this tonight, or do we want to table it?
I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, I don't see any reason.
Let's
yeah.
discuss.
Let's discuss.
Sure, well,
Okay.
it seems fine. I mean, is there a reason the city council wouldn't approve if it was in compliance with the chapter? I guess, I mean, that was the one part that caught me. If for some reason they didn't approve despite it being in compliance, there's no appeal. So, I mean, is there a reason why they would do that? Otherwise, I think it reads fine.
Could you say that again, Commissioner? So, in terms of the
new writ states that the city council shall consider the staff report findings and recommendation and may approve with conditions, or deny the administrative subdivision based upon compliance with this chapter, the city's zoning ordinance, and other applicable regulations.
Sure.
And then right after that, it says that the city council's decision is final. So I was just wondering if the city council was to not approve something despite it being in compliance with the chapter, the city ordinance, and other applicable regulations.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So just a disconnect in how it's written. So,
I'm wondering but is there any reason why the city council would do that?
well, I think when you write an ordinance proposal, you want to give all the capacity you have to the council to make, and that's why it says may approve or may deny.
Right.
Versus shall approve or shall deny. So it gives the council that flexibility. Maybe they've come up with something that they feel isn't compliant. Or the zoning administrator might give a recommendation for denial, but the council might think it's fine. And so there's those ways the city ordinance is looking to enable the decision to be placed on the shoulders of the council. Their appeal from that would be to basically the court system, if the council denied it. The council, if it did deny something, it would have to have a good cause for denial.
Right.
But is it possible? Sure. Yeah. Can't. Councils do these things. You know, and we
Okay.
can't think of every possible iteration with what may come before us for staff recommendation. I mean, we might think it's great, but they might think it's terrible, you know, and, who knows? But that is also part of why maybe the ordinance, as it is currently written in the strikeout zone, basically says it's approved by the zoning administrator. So it's an administrative. It's either go, no go. It's either yes or no. It's not a gray area decision. Or in this case, maybe it makes it a little gray with findings and this and that. We did do some investigation with other cities when we first brought this up to council. And some cities do have it being subject to approval by the council. Some cities do have it being purely a staff function. Some cities don't allow minor subdivisions at all. So, I actually have a chart I can show you. So these are the ones we did talk to. So Anoka, Blaine, and the like. So everybody calls it a little bit something different. East Bethel calls it administrative subdivision. This is what these cities call it. talk about look-back periods. Anoka didn't have any look-back period. Who gets to approve it? In that case, it was a city planner. Blaine, again, it's a staff review, but the city administrator the zoning may refer it to the council. Maybe they're uncomfortable with it. Columbus, a look-back period, it's not even applicable because they can't subdivide it. They can reconfigure a lot, but they can't create a parcel. Forest Lake, it has to go through the Planning Commission and the City Council. Oak Park Heights, only because I worked there for so long, it was administrative. And Stillwater, there was no look-back period, but they too had a mixed system. Some required council approval, some was staff approval, so.
Okay.
Any other questions? You good?
I'm good,
Okay.
thank you.
Anybody else down here? Okay, so there's a resolution on page 333 and 339. Does anyone want to make a motion on that one? It's Exhibit B.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number PC 26-14 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, okay. Fabulous. And any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. And do we have any staff update?
No.
Oh, no, we don't. Okay. Great. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Oh, second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Alrighty.